That's really. All right. Hello, hello. All right. All right. Here we go. Letting everyone in. All right. Thanks, Gerard, for writing in the chat. Can everyone please go to the chat and give a little salutation for the day? There we go. All right. Um, all right. So, looks like everyone's popping in. Things are working out. And here we go. So, hi there. Hi, Mary Ellen. Hi, Peggy. Hi, Rachel. And Dan and Rebecca again and Gerard. I always say Rebecca again because she's in the morning. Not as a, oh, Rebecca again, but as a, hey, Rebecca again.
That's okay. That's okay.
I mean it as a good thing. People who follow me on the crazy schedule of class after another is kind of fun. As I said, there were some students who were doing my morning Wednesday and my morning afternoon, and they had to give up because there I don't get a break at all. And I understand, I don't even want to do that. But other than that, it's been working. So I have, call it a request, a thing to say, which is if you are, do I have that there? Yeah. It's anecdotal, but the other day I really appreciate when I get emails from you guys sometimes during class after class telling me, oh, this is great because I learned this, I changed. Now and then I got one of those. I go, you changed my life, some like really big stuff. And every now and then I'll forward them to the powers that be. I'm just joking. But I got one that was kind of funny the other day in the way it was phrased. And so I forwarded it to them. And what I got back was, hey, we're looking for kind of testimonial stories to talk about people who have gotten good things out of adult ed. I mean, not only at adult, but or in particular, in this case, my classes. So I usually get stuff, I don't send them forward, but I don't also want to do that without permission. So if you guys ever want to say something about what you're getting out of the classes and if it's making a difference to you, and some people are like now launching a business, that kind of stuff, or if it's just helping you in some way or another, if you're willing to email me that and then say it's fine to share this or something like that, then I would be happy to share that along, because they want to be able to put like in their catalog, they'll have something like a little quote. Oh, I got this happy, that kind of thing. So if anyone is happy or wants or is open to doing that, I forgot to say that in the morning class because this is just an email I got yesterday. Then basically I said if they want to share their stories, but the story can just be it's one paragraph, it doesn't one line. It doesn't need to be like, an essay. They would really appreciate that, and I would too. So that's just something to throw out there. Now, I'm going to share my screen to show you the Padlet. Hold on, I'm having to open on this other computer. Give me a sec. And while I'm fixing that up here, I was going to say, by the way, whenever I share something like that, it helps me. I usually do that when I'm trying to schedule something and hold on, when we're working on the scheduling for something else, they're cutting down a lot of classes because the budget's getting bad and a lot of people aren't signing up. So they're not even scheduling as many classes anymore for like next spring. And so then is when I start going, wait a minute, because they're trying to be even-handed. And I'm like, wait, someone who never fills their class or someone who fills all their classes, we shouldn't be even-handed. I still want hours. And so that's when I go ahead and send these things that you guys sent me, like, oh, it's so great. So I use those emails as fodder for see why you need to give me more classes. So beyond if you want it to be printed or not, it kind of helps me say, see. Anyway, that's just a little personal. So thank you when you guys do send that. Plus, the other day, someone sent me a really nice one and it was Friday and I was exhausted and it was the end of the week. And it had been a tough week and it truly sometimes makes my day. It reminds me this is exactly why I teach and how wonderful it is. And I really appreciate hearing from you guys, those kind of things. So just thought I'd tell you that. Appreciation goes a long way when one is tired and exhausted. All right. Okay, everyone keeps popping in and I can't get started. Good, there we go. All right, so in the home, wow. Do you guys hear the bing also, the door? Do you hear the ding of people coming in or is it just me? You don't? Oh, because I get a doorbell. I get a little bing like a doorbell. And just now I had like 10 dings in a row, boom, 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 boom. It's like, okay. I thought it was that everyone would hear the ding. It means you're in the waiting room and I need to let you in. But I thought I thought it was a noise so loud that everyone heard it. Okay. I see you have a hand. Hold on. I just wanted to say thank you for those of you who kept practicing during the week. So for example, Rachel went ahead and opened 2 different images in sorry, not there, but there in her in Camera Raw and played around with it. And then she told me what she was trying to change and what she was trying to do. So she was saying, I was trying to obtain more hills in the histogram, which is, this is histogram, right? And more hills, I don't know. I don't have the histogram of the before, but this is the after. It was probably pretty flat. And then she was trying to go more contrasty and that's, so I could image to lighten with more contrast and stuff like that. So I really appreciate those kind of things or notes in here that she made another one and another one. So yeah, please post all of your things that you do. And then Catalina went and processed this one. So this is outside of the things that you need to do in class. I really appreciate when you work on stuff. And then Odessa, are you here? No, Odessa's not here yet. So I usually don't talk too much about questions when they answer, the people aren't here, but anyway, something about they were not straightening. So if she shows up, I'll talk about that. And the rest was mainly the stuff done in class. Any comments, any questions? Remember, the homework was to just do this, either to one of my class photos or to take one of your other photos and to do this. So, and if you didn't do it, that's okay. You're not graded to be doing that, but you lose the chance to ask me questions when things don't work. So just a reminder, ideally do your homework. All right, Rebecca.
I just wanted to say that tip from the last class where adding the Zoom link to your calendar is amazing.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, it's towards the end of all these classes, but if I learn to do that, I'm going to use that in the future. It's great.
All right.
And,
Sorry.
and for your students, I think a lot of them would like that because you can get to your class quicker.
Yeah. So guys, in the Mac class, I'm teaching people how to use the Mac apps and stuff like that. And one is the calendars. And even if you're not a Mac student user, you can do it on your Gmail calendar or whatever. You can add to you make an appointment, an event for the class, repeating all the days that it repeats. And then you add to that the Zoom link. And then whenever class is here, you don't have to wait for my email, go to the link or do weird things. You just go to your calendar and just click on the calendar and boom, you're connected. That's what she's talking about. So this is the stuff I taught in my morning class.
Yeah, it came up in a banner. And so I could just click on the banner.
Yeah, I was teaching in banners and clicks and stuff like that. Awesome. Well, I'm glad. Next Tuesday, can you say that again in the Tuesday morning class so that people hear that result. That's really cool. All right. So nothing much more to comment over here. I don't think I had any other questions other than Odessa's. So I will switch my share to the bridge. And here we go. We're in Photoshop. So at the end of the day, last week, we did a lot of work in on a couple of images in RAW. And then we went into oh, I have a gnat that's right here on my eyes. I don't know, the summer gnats or something. They just kind of want to stick to my eyes. So if you see me doing that, I'm batting away at gnat. I'm not going crazy. When we opened from RAW that image into Photoshop, then we discovered that that photo that we changed in RAW and fixed and went back and forth and did stuff to, when we brought it into Photoshop and opened it up, that was our beginning, like our fixed image to that point was our flat beginning image in Photoshop. Do you remember that, guys? That part of it? Okay. And then I also had you guys do some differences with smart objects. And so in this example here, I had you guys bring these as smart, and you distinguish that they're smart objects. Oh my God. Sorry. The fact that this little box appears right here on the bottom of that makes this be a smart object versus this is not a smart object. And we were beginning to compare. And what was one of the things that we discovered that happens if you have an image as a smart object and versus not as a smart object? What did you guys remember that we talked about?
You don't
It
corrupt
doesn't
it.
degrade.
It doesn't degrade. Someone else was saying something similar. Aaron?
No corruption.
Yeah. So you can switch it, flip it, turn it around. What you can't still do safely is make it bigger than it was, because even if you begin to make it a little bit bigger, it starts degrading. Of course, a little bit bigger, the degradation is so slight that you might not notice it. You might be willing to push it maybe an extra inch or something like that. But if you ever do that, have to do it to a separate layer, right? And then start looking at them and comparing them, and you'll notice when it begins to look bad, that's when you should you can begin to notice a bit of softness. You should stop there and not make it any bigger than that. There's some other tools that we can explore that truly do create a bigger version with artificial intelligence versus for interpolation. The transform tool interpolates. It's a tool that's been around since the beginning of Photoshop. It gets more and more intelligent. Now we can upgrade, open up bigger than before, and the degradation is much less than before. Before you would open it like a quarter inch and the whole thing disappeared, right? I'm talking about yay before, so it's getting better and better, but it still isn't artificial intelligence doing that. That's like Photoshop's internal. They used to call it machine learning before artificial intelligence come along. All of these kind of tools, Adobe called machine learning. Now it's truly artificial intelligence, and there's apps, there's filters and stuff here in Photoshop. I'm going to show you some that are truly about artificial intelligence, and it can increase the size of your image and keep it sharp. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But most importantly, I want to explore a bit more what is or isn't happening with those smart objects, and we're going to be working on some retouching. And yes, today we are going to be using some artificial intelligence tools. So those of you who are on VDI, can you remind me who's on VDI in this class? Give me a yes. I know that a lot of people are on VDI in my Illustrator class, but not so much here, right? I think there was only one of you guys on VDI here. Okay, so then that's good, because artificial intelligence does use a lot of computer resources, and when you're on VDI, some of the tools just don't work, and some do, and end up having crashes and stuff. So hopefully everyone can make it work on their computers this time without much crashing. I want to say this week was really crazy, and I do believe I have to, for many reasons outside of school. School is a lot, but I had some other stuff happening, not dangerous, but lots piling up. Not like not like it was a problem, but on top of that, I was sick yesterday. And I know that I think someone in this class emailed me something about upgrading their computer, and it could have been the Mac class, it could have been here, it could have been Illustrator. One of you guys said something about memory and upgrades, and I misplaced that email. I'd have to scroll down like 20, 30 to find it, and I don't know who it was, so it's hard
I
to
think it
do.
was Bob.
Bob. Oh, yes, in the morning class, Bob Moran. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll go and see if I can search his email. But to that, I wanted to say, when you ask me a question that involves a lot of talking and explanation, I try to answer it in class, always, especially if it's a question that everyone can hear the answer. But also because otherwise it takes me another hour sometimes to sit and answer a question. So if you have a question that you've emailed me that I haven't answered in class, just bring it up again and say, remember I asked you about whatever, and then I can verbally do it faster and show you, versus having to write an explanation is harder than just showing you an explanation, right? So anyway, that was all I wanted to say about that. But it had to do with the power of the computer and AI, which is why it triggered this conversation when I'm telling you about artificial intelligence. So although we do have, so if I go to Photoshop in the memory here, I have the one that we were working on, okay, where we were doing postcard smart object in practice. Right now, for just a little bit, we're probably going to come back to this one, but I want to start clean on something that's, oh, I didn't want to open that one in particular. I wanted to start some clean on one. So let's go back to Bridge and let's open this one. The one that has, it's called Image 5633 for those of you who don't see a preview. And it's got like a little tiny bike there in the corner or whatever. Let's double click on that one and open that one. Now, this was a JPEG, so it opened straight in Photoshop. It didn't pass through RAW, but we can use the RAW tools in here if we want to and if we need to. And we can put filters and we can do retouching. There's a lot of stuff we can do this photo, but the most important thing I want to tell you is that ideally you would keep this as a original base and have all those changes happen non-destructively. Not everything we do can be non-destructive. Now and then you do need to copy the image and apply something to it, but 95% of all of Photoshop things can be done non-destructively. So we're going to alter this image a lot using a whole bunch of tools today for retouching, and some of you use AI and other stuff. But ideally, we won't be affecting the original. That's my goal. Okay. So for some things though, you need the layer. So we're going to keep this one called, let's double click on it and call it its original. Like basically make sure original, could be good if I could type. So don't alter or something like that. Just kind of remind myself. And the moment I do that, it stops being locked, meaning it became a layered file. In this moment, if you try to save it, even nothing else has changed, it won't save as a JPEG anymore because it has a layer. It's floating. In fact, if I get my move tool, I can move it around. The fact that it's floating like that means that this already right now cannot be saved as a JPEG unless I flatten it, which right now flatten doesn't matter because I haven't really altered it. So I could just flatten it right now and then I could save it again. But then a JPEG is a compression format. And if I save it again as a JPEG, it will recompress. So if you guys ever have a JPEG that you open up, which is all photos that come from a camera come in as a JPEG, unless you take a raw picture, when you open up that JPEG, if you save it again as a JPEG, you are already degrading it. Because the compression situation, what it does is to the pixels is that each time it rereads them, and even that second JPEG is going to be altered as to that first JPEG. If you do that 2, 3, 4, 5 times, if you could compare to the original, which by then you don't have anymore, you'll notice that the quality is being affected. Does that make sense? Again, they're getting better and better, but still a JPEG compresses an image, and when it compresses it, it loses some quality. And at some point you start getting these things that are like little lines around the edges and stuff like that. So even without changing anything, just right now, if I were to not, not have unlocked this, right? If I had not have changed the name and just save it on its own, it's fine. But once you do a save as and resave it as a JPEG, that JPEG is a bit more degraded than the first one, and so on and so forth. So I highly recommend you do this. You always have a copy somewhere. Have two versions. And even though we're gonna alter this one, you want to make sure that this isn't your original that came out of the camera. Those should be reserved in a backup somewhere. And then when you're working on this one, if you mess it up because you didn't even notice because you did JPEGs or you compressed it too much or whatever, you always have actually an original one to come back to. Does that make sense? Because later you look at this picture and you want to use it in a calendar 2 years from now, the one you start with is already been altered today, and then you won't really be able to start from scratch. Okay. So that's just a thing outside of Photoshop. Like I can't go in and tell you all about how to do backups and stuff. That I do that in the Mac classes or in those classes. But here, just know that if you don't have another one of these at all, right now you should do a save as, but save it as a PSD already, right? Because that way you don't resave it. In fact, I'm going to just show you one thing. For years and years and years, you could save as a JPEG. I mean, from the beginning of the time of Photoshop until about 2 versions ago, I think 2022. If you go now here and use file save as, it doesn't give you the option of formatting as a JPEG 2000, which is a really old format, but it doesn't let you Photoshop format as a JPEG anymore because too many people kept doing that, and thus not knowing this that I'm telling you, they would begin to degrade their images. So now the only option, if you want to save a JPEG, is to file export. And the difference with exporting as a JPEG versus saving as a JPEG is that it is a completely new image that gets created out there, and it doesn't like affect this one now. So if I save this as a JPEG and I continue through this whole process, which I'm not going to, I get a new image added, but I still come back to this one. Versus when you save as, you switch, you leave the old one down and you create a new one, and that new one that you've created is degraded from the first one. It's a minor thing right now because Photoshop doesn't let you do it so much. But if I were to do changes and flatten it, then it would give me the option to save it as a JPEG, and I don't ever recommend saving JPEG over JPEG. All right. So just to make sure that we don't mess this one up to start with, I'm going to have us copy this one. And to copy a layer, the easiest way, there's so many ways, like duplicate it up, just Command J does it. That's a copy. I'm going to lock this bottom one. I'm going to turn the, I'm going to go ahead and add a little lock to the bottom one now. And I'm going to turn the eyeball off, and it's going to hang there kind of unaltered. And I'm going to go to this one. And now this one, I'm going to change its name because it's not, you're just kind of original. It's the first, I'm going to just do that. But that's it. Like down there, I'm going to leave the one that we're not going to do. Now, for better or for worse, by doing that, I have doubled the file size, which is why you shouldn't be doing too much of repeating layers. Because if you look down here, I mean way down bottom left where I'm pointing. I know it's hard to see in mine, but look at yours. Where it says document size, it now says, before it said only 34 megabytes. I didn't show you the before, but now it says 34/69 or 69.8 or something like that. It's actually double what I had before, because this is a full-on layered pixel. It isn't just like one little bird I'm adding a whole nother layer versus the same. So the file size, if I were to save this file now, it'd be double the size as when it had one layer. Does that make sense? A lot of computers, the bigger your file gets, the more it starts to grind down and have trouble working. So I recommend rarely duplicating. A lot of people in the past, people did things very destructively and they had been taught, just duplicate your file, keep working. Ideally, don't duplicate your file much and add things in a non-destructive way, which is what we've been doing with adjustment layers and masks and all of that. That's all non-destructive. But anyway, that's one of the reasons why. And now that we have a layered file and that we are needing to save it, let's go ahead and save this file, and let's we're gonna have to save it as a PSD. So even if we try to save, it won't let us. Even if we say save, it will pop up the save as, because save only would work if you save over the JPEG. Save as, we'll save as a Photoshop. And let's call this one, it's more than retouching that we're gonna do, but let's say retouch, smart object, and there's more than that, dash AI, that kind of, that's about the kind of things that we're gonna practice. There's a few more, but that gives you an idea of what kind of things we're doing here. And then let's save. And I'm gonna say save. And okay. And this basically, by doing that, I now have, and I changed its name, so it's down here instead of next to it, but now this one remains completely unaltered. The one I opened to start with has not been, there's no hair touched on it, so it hasn't been recompressed. So that's as good as it gets. Does that make sense? And now when we're starting with this one, we can clearly know that there's a backup of this one. So somewhere, in this case, it's in the same folder, that hasn't been messed up. Yes, Rebecca? Your sound is off?
If you take a picture from your photos, does that get degraded also? Or just in Photoshop?
From the Photos app, you mean?
Yeah.
And guys, I'm just gonna show this because some people in my Photos app, if you drag it out, it's one thing, but if you go to say this photo and you say file, export, you get the choice to say unmodified original. If you say export unmodified original, it'll give you the file you took. If you say export one photo, it'll compress it, okay? So you have to choose that one, okay?
I think I'll have to learn this a couple times.
Just when you, some people think that they can just drag a photo to the desktop, because you can, see? And this is a Mac thing, guys. If you're not a Mac, don't worry, you can put it out here. But that there is already, in fact, that was an HEIC and now it's turned into a JPEG. So there you go. That's one way in which it was altered. I'm going to move it to the trash because I want to, if instead I had export, I'm going to go to,
Well,
I have
I'm
some
saying
raw file.
if you opened it in Photoshop. And then
Straight into Photoshop? Okay, because here you can say open. Okay, I see what you mean. I think I had taught you that you could right click
Mhm.
and say open in edit with Photoshop. Okay, if you do it like that, then
Mhm.
yeah, it's fine. It opens up directly. Okay, but then this one here, when you save as, you'll have to save as and put it, when you save as, if you save as, say I open this one in Photoshop and I save as, it won't automatically go back into Photos. I'll have to put it somewhere in my computer and then add it back into Photos, because you can't save into Photos, into the Photos app. Guys, the Photos is the word of this app. Anyway, I'm going to stop right there. You can ask me more
Okay.
about this in the class where I'm teaching Photos. But for now, yeah, there you go. But otherwise you export it and then you work with that unmodified file. All right, so this image here, we're going to try a bunch of stuff on it. So we're going to end up having to copy this a few times to try a few different things. But the first one is that we're going to try to use some of the retouching tools, which are pretty amazing. The newer that the computer, the operating system gets, the more retouching tools it has. So I'm going to head over here to the retouching tools, which are down under the eyedropper. The eyedropper is very easy to tell. And then this one is a Band-Aid, but there's so many versions of Band-Aids right now that when you click and hold, there's like 3 Band-Aids now. There used to be 1, then 2, now 3. Okay. And then there's the patch tool and the content aware move and the red eye tool. If your tools are very different than these, it could be like if you're in photography, in the workspace of photography, and you go over here, you have, oh no, they did it to the essentials. Okay, in the past when you were in essentials, you didn't see the patch and the red eye. How funny. Now in essentials, they put I guess people complained. Yeah, that's good. They have the content aware, the patch. Okay, that's good to know, because when I send people to the photography version, we could do these things. And when we were in Essentials version, they had taken these out and we were down left to just one of those. The red eye tool was gone from all of them. So they probably discovered that people need them a lot and they brought them back. Okay, that's good to know. So then, yay, you have them. That said, if I were to go to painting, I look at here at my retouching tools and where are they? Nowhere to be seen, not there at all. Okay, so if you don't see something here, you might be in the wrong or in a different, same with graphic and web. There's no retouching tools. Okay, so not that you do or don't do that, but just so you know, oh, I think I had put that one in there. Yeah, I had to add that one in here in order to show it because it wasn't in that mode. Okay, so now let me go back to Essentials because we're fine with Essentials. The tools are there. I was gonna have you change, but the tools are there, so we're fine. Is that hand this same question, another question, or you didn't raise, it's a new hand, same question, okay. Or, so now I'm gonna reshare so that you don't have to see the top and bottom of my whole screen.
Hey, Diana, just so you
Yes.
know, in my this is Gerard, in my
Mhm.
essentials, it only has the two icons.
Oh,
But under photography, I get the sliders and the
yeah,
eye
so
and-
maybe
and-
you don't have it updated, or maybe I reset my essentials, maybe I reset it in, let me see, I'm gonna reset my essentials and see if it did that, if it lost them. No, so I think I just probably updated more one version up than you, because
Okay.
even in my reset essentials, I still have them there because it was crazy. It was ridiculous that they were gone. So I guess they probably, a lot of people complained and they figured it out.
Okay.
But those of you, if you like him, when you click on this tool, you only see 3, I believe is what you have. Then please go over here and switch to photography. Why don't we all, hey, just to try a new one, why don't we all switch to photography? Let's just do that. That way you see a different version. And you can't see me doing it because of the way Photoshop the way the Mac shares. Let me move this to the edge of my screen. And when I do that, now you'll see my thing. There it is. Let's switch to photography. In case you have a different setting for photography, let's reset photography as well. And then your photography will look like this. And that's just so that you get to see some other tools. And in the end, we are doing photography with this one. We are working with the basic photography. If you look over here, there's some new tools or different tools. But most importantly, look, every one of these retouching tools is on its own. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The only one that doesn't show up here is the red eye tool, because I think they figure if you're a photographer, you know to fix a red eye better than with the red eye tool. Red eye tool is fine if you're not really good at masking. So that one disappeared and they're all spread open, versus in Essentials, you had to click and hold to get them. But see the red eye tool. So now we have those 5, but not the red eye tool. The red eye tool is a bit useless once you're good at once you know about masking and retouching, which is what we're doing. So then here they took it out. Okay, so yeah, good point. Thanks. You mentioned that photography. I went ahead and switched to that. So we all have different, but there's other things that were there before that now are missing, right? So it's what you get. And then over here on the right side, if you did reset your photography, please do so. That way everything is back to scratch. Then what you have it here is the histogram, which right now, the only place you guys saw the histogram was up in the raw tools, and the histogram is a really useful thing to know. You also have down here the adjustments. And remember that if we wanted to add an adjustment, this is just a review. You don't need to do this. If you do it, delete it. If you go to this little circle and we add an adjustment tool, say a hue saturation, I can flip around and make all the colors in this image change. And that is what happened. That is an adjustment layer, right? Now, that's how I've shown you how to do it. If you have this panel, you could have gone over here and it'll show you the single adjustments, and there's the hue saturation. If you click on that, the same exact things happen, right? But as far as I'm concerned, it's much easier to do it here because these have the name, so whatever, but you can do it there. Plus, you have some presets for adjustments right now. Let me get rid of this one again. So I'm going to show this to you really quickly in case you ever come across it. If I say I want this, it gives me a little preview. I'm going to click on more, and maybe I want to make this look more sunshiny or more warm or more moody or more bright. And so when I say I want it to go brighter, I click on that. It gives me basically an adjustment layer inside of Escape. So it's basically the same thing, but it does a preset for me. I'm going to delete that. I don't ever use people's other kinds, like here's a landscape reset and stuff like that. If you don't know what to do, you're welcome to do that. But for most part, the only good news about this panel, I think, is that you can create your own preset. So maybe you find that you have an image that you took 50 of in the same sunset and you discovered that they were all a bit green and you need to take add some warmth to all of them. Then you create a preset here for warmth and it stays. And when you open all 20, you can set the same preset. So this wasn't available before. I'm just going to ignore all that. I don't want any of that. Let's just go to adjustments and double click. It's like you're learning the basics, so you don't need all of the more. So I'm going to just ignore that by double clicking, having it go away. And then the panel of both adjustments and libraries kind of minimizes itself. And now we have a lot of space for our layers, which is what I want. Okay. There's some other stuff here as usual, history at the top. History I'm going to be using, so I'm going to I'm going to already be opening this one up. Look at all these things I've been showing you are called an action. So if I only have 50 actions, I've already made quite a few of them. Actions we haven't talked about. Again, it's presets of things to do to your computer. And then when you click over here, you get your properties panel. The properties panel is one that in the essentials mode, the properties panel was popping in here whenever we used it, right? And so this were our layers, this was the properties. But in the photography more post, then the properties appear here on the side. It's just moving things around, basically. So just so you know where things are. Okay. Let's start doing stuff to this image. First of all, I'm going to check this image out. So what's the first thing I should be doing? So I can, before I start retouching or changing or doing anything, what's the first thing? As soon as I open an image in Photoshop, what should be my first shortcut?
Make it 100%.
I always want you guys to all answer, but this time you actually canceled each other out. Normally I hear people independently, but I have a feeling that you all said the right thing, those of you who spoke. So I need to check at 100%. Okay, so Command or Control 1. I saw your mouths move. I didn't hear it, but I saw, like, I can tell you were saying percent, or something like that. All right, so at 100%, I pull this up, and at 100%, I don't see the whole image. But this is where I can check and see if this is, looking good for whatever my needs are, which in general, it just means at least focus on the important parts. So I'm going to hold the space bar down and I'm going to have to scooch around and see if this is in or out. Does it matter to me if it's in focus or not? Probably not. In fact, we're going to work on getting rid of that. Probably what I want more in focus is maybe this thing over there. This was an Amish farm and we bought a lot of yummy fruit and stuff from them. And the kids were watching us like we were really different and we were watching them. So once I look and I see, okay, I can see the texture of the wood or whatever it is. It probably isn't wood. I can see that the flower is pretty sharp. I can see the kids. So yeah, I basically have full sharpness on everything. And if that's all that matters right now, I can go back to Command or Control 0 so that I can see the entire picture. Okay, so that has to be an automatic. Just do it. Just do it. Check and see before you start doing anything that it's good. All right. We're going to start altering this photo. We're going to assume that it's looking good. We're not going to do color or pop, brightness, all of that right now. We're just going to focus on some of the retouching tools. And then I'll explain why some of these things could be done as a smart object. So first of all, let's grab the topmost retouching tool, which is the Spot Healing Tool Brush. So it's the topmost Band-Aid. Notice that the shortcut for it, and it shows always here in the little tiny quick thing, the J. But if I go to this one, it's also J, and to this one, it's also J. All the retouching tools are J. So if I click J, like if I click the B, I go to the brush, period. But if I click the J, it defaults to one of them. It used to be it defaulted to the spot. Now it's defaulting to the newest of all the retouching tools, which is the remove tool. So if you want to cycle amongst them, you have to go Shift J, 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 and then it goes and it shifts through them. So I go to J and Shift J, J, and then it'll shift through them. Most of the times, just go grab it. In this case, just go grab it. Okay, so we're going to go to the topmost one, the first one. And I'm going to go ahead and I end up getting a little circle. You guys can have a bigger one, a smaller one. If you have instead of a circle, if you have a little X, it's because your caps lock is turned on. Go ahead and turn off your caps lock and you have a circle again. And we're going to make the circle bigger or smaller. And you've done this with a brush, same as the painting brush, that where we went to the Apple, to the bracket keys and make bigger or smaller. This is exactly the same. Okay. Just like the brush, it's considered a brush. In fact, it's called spot healing brush tool, right? So when something is called a brush, you can do the same things to it. You can go up here and make it harder or smaller, exactly as we did with the brush when we were doing masks. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the hardness, I don't know, somewhere around 75%. You always need to gauge depending on your image. I'm going to just do a generic amount, okay, of hardness. And now I'm going to start with the brush tool. I'm going to say that I want to approach a little bit. I'm going to zoom in a teensy bit and say that I want to get rid of this handle. Well, if I want to get rid of this handle and I make a bigger brush than the handle, and watch, I'm going to just do it. It didn't seem to have worked because the thing was this big. Well, that's because I gave it some hardness, softer. If I make it 100% hard and I do like that, then it's a sharp line inside. If I make it 0% hard, it'll take even less, just a teensy bit in the middle. See that? Because what it does, so let's go, even if we go all the way to in hardness, the biggest hardness, if we delete something, all it does is that it gives me a sharp area that I can almost see what was left behind to get rid of it. And we don't want that sharp area, which is why we soften it a little bit. So I'm going to again go to about 75 so that if something is left behind, it merges in there a little bit more. But that said, this is not what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to make it smaller. Because if I have it this big, everything surrounded by this circle is getting changed, is getting new pixels. And I don't want to alter this as much as that. I want to alter the least amount as possible. So in this case, I would rather go a bit smaller, which is about yay big, so that not so much gets altered. And then I would click and drag until I cover that area and I let go, and that disappears without having a ton of stuff altered. That said, I still see a bit of a gray thing, so then I can go in and do it again. And if I do it again, and in this case, I kind of distorted the line a little bit. I shouldn't have disappeared the line, sorry. So I had, because I did it in a couple of different times, I have a little bit of a distortion there. But, and this is the question, that the most important question, maybe I want to get rid of this line. I'm going to make it even smaller. I'm going to get rid of this kind of crack, and it's pretty magical. It's doing it, right? Maybe I want to get rid of this dark thing and that little dark thing, just little details for you to see how it's working. What's the big problem here? We're all happily erasing stuff. What's the big problem here? There's a huge problem in what I'm doing.
It's destructive.
It's completely destructive. I am affecting my pixels. This is changing those pixels, and see where I kind of messed up that line. Sorry, I keep pointing to it with this tool and it keeps disappearing. That's it. I don't have the original line to go back to. Does that make sense? Since I've only worked at a little bit, I could go back in my history and undo my brushes. Yes, I could do that. So it's yet not important. But what if I'm modifying away, and then next thing you know, I save, I go to school, I come back and I open it again, and I want to, keep, and then I notice the kink there and I go, oh, let me go back to the original. You and I know we have this one here because I forcefully left it there because I know some of you guys might mess up a little bit and I want you to have it, but you shouldn't. Remember, I told you, you shouldn't double your file. You shouldn't have this one. And ideally, you've made a save as, and you do have another one hanging out there. But if you forgot to have another one hanging out there, right? And if you didn't duplicate in this case, you really don't, that's gone. You don't have a straight line anymore. You have to invent it now, okay? So we don't want to do our retouchings on the original. So let's go ahead and undo that. Let's go to your history and go back up and get rid of all the spot healing tools that you can see. And now we're going to do the same exact thing we did, but we're going to do it on a different layer. So once you've gone to your history and back up, get rid of all your spot healing brushes in your history. And in this case, I was doing other examples and I want to have more histories available. So I'm actually going to go all the way up to there. There we go. That's kind of the nothingness because I was all the different things that I said don't do, but do them. So I'm back to 0. Now we're going to go ahead and when you have this one selected and you click on a plus sign, a new layer appears. And it's completely empty. There's nothing on that layer. If I turn this off, it's an empty layer. Okay? It's an empty layer. So now this here is where I'm going to do those modifications. So I'm going to go choose the exact same tool as before. But the important thing is up here, I need to check sample all layers. So turn this on. Turn the sample all layers on. And now I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did before. I'm going to click and drag across this thing. And by the way, I hate having my mouse. Okay, I'm going to click and drag across this thing and I'm going to let go. And this time the same exact thing happened. And I'm going to make it smaller and click across these. And then I'm going to take a couple of these little spots out, right? Just to have something to show you. Not because I think you should take away the wood texture, but there you go. And there's some grayness there because the color doesn't affect it. I'll talk about color later. It's just texture is what gets changed. So now I go over it a few more times. All right, so by the time I'm done, this is looking pretty empty of blemishes, let's call it, because it still has texture. But now look at my layers. I can turn this eyeball on and off, and all my corrections have been done on the new layer. In fact, if I turn off my bottom layer, these are the little bits and pieces that I just created to cover the other pieces, and they've settled themselves on another layer. Does that make sense, you guys? So if you created a new layer, and I'm going to double click on this one and call it Spot Healing Brush. Spot Healing Brush tool. That is holding all my changes. And if I turn the eyeball off, I'm back to my original. So I have not done anything destructive, but I have managed to get rid of stuff that I didn't want anymore. Does that make sense? Pretty cool. For better or for worse, the spot healing tool brush is a bit of a sorry, I didn't mean to do that, is a one size fits all, in that you don't have that many choices with it. And I'm gonna zoom, I'm gonna zoom down, Command minus. And if I were to want to get rid of something, I'm seeing over here, I'm gonna go up, I can drag myself over to this line there. If I say I don't want that thing to appear over there, let me see if that'll work. I'm going to go ahead and cover it about yay and let go, and not bad. See a little divot there? If I don't like it, I undo it, because each time you do it, something different would happen. This time I will go a little bit bigger and just drag straight across. And let's see if it picks up the straight line a bit better. Nope, it's still picked up a little bit of a divot. So then I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go small, And I'm just gonna go and mark the white stuff and not turn the edge around. So each time you do this, and this one's a bit harder because I have to cover a big spectrum, so make sure you don't leave anything in there, with a tiny, tiny brush, and only a little bit outside of the area that I want. Once I let go of my mouse, that worked better, right? Because lines are problematic for these brushes. Edges are problematic. So if I stay inside the lines, I'm going to be doing okay. But once you try to change something along a line, it doesn't do such a good job. If I try to do that along a line there, see how my line ends up curving itself a little bit, okay? So if you have this tool, do your best to avoid lines and try to go as near as possible. But it worked. It did a pretty good job once I was a bit more careful. But not everything needs to be outlined so tinily, just if there's edges or lines. Yes, Rachel?
Yes, I couldn't quite get my brush to make the sign look like wood. Can I share my screen or
Sure.
you want to just, okay, hold on a second.
And by the way, each one's experience of this changes because how your size, your brush, how much you held it, whatever. That's why you need to be ready to do and undo, make and remake a few times and not stop in the middle. Okay, so that looks like you stopped in the middle. So go ahead and undo. Command Z. You guys have to remember to do shortcuts, Command or Control Z. You're on a Mac, so Command Z and type Z, Z, Z enough times for all of that to disappear. There you go, there you go, there you go, and there you go. So what, oh, and one past that. Okay, so now go and turn on the eyeball of the bottom layer. The eyeball of the original layer, go down to the layers, yeah. And turn on the eyeball of the one underneath where you're working.
The Zoom's covering it, so I just don't see it right now.
Oh,
So
oh,
let me
oh.
see if I can move it over.
Yeah, Zoom gets in the way, yep.
All right, let's see what I see.
Okay, so turn on the eyeball of the layer, yep. No, but now you moved also. Go ahead and do Command 0. Control 0, so it centers. Command 0. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, you took it off its, you disconnected it from its background. Hold on, go up at the top where it says, see how your Photoshop layer now is floating because of how you grabbed it? Go ahead and go up to Window and click on Window, yeah. Oh, it doesn't show, yeah, whenever you share tabs, I don't see them, but let me go to mine to remember. You go to Arrange, Window Arrange, and then go to Consolidate to all tabs. There, now you're back to having everything set in. When you dragged it, you dragged the photo out of its frame. Never mind.
I dragged this
You're
whole thing
fixed.
out.
Yeah. Okay. So now zoom back into that and let me explain. When I did that, I didn't let go of my mouse, and it takes a bit of control, right? Keep getting up closer and closer. And when I did my changes, my things, I pressed down with my mouse, and with it down, I dragged it all over that shape. Okay. You need to go and select your layer that you're doing the changes on. That one. Yeah. Okay. So now I press down, and without letting go of my mouse, start dragging. And if you have a touchpad, it's harder. Drag and drag and drag until you cover it. Otherwise, if you let go, there you let go. Each time you let
Oh,
go,
you still
it
go
only does a teensy bit, right? So now you have to cover the whole thing before you let go, and now let go. Oh, you touched the edge. So now
Oops.
you got a bit of
Ah,
edge
I
in
see
there.
what you mean.
I saw
Okay.
when you dipped into the edge, but see how it works? Otherwise, if you just kind of cross inside, go ahead and do Command Z and try it again, and it'll work. Okay, so that's what was happening. So let me share my screen now for a second to be clarify. I'm glad when you showed that, because otherwise I forget sometimes to say you have to keep going or something like that. So where I said it was a little bit hard to have a big one, let me undo a big tool. Let me Command Z to undo my good spot healing brush. There we go. A big tool that covers the whole thing will mess up with the edges, right? And so you get that divot. But when you get to a smaller tool, you have to cover it all that I'm not letting go, because if I let go right now, that's happens. And if I let go right there, that happens. And if I let go, you see what I mean? It just kind of doesn't work at all because you're taking only little bits. Because what this tool does, the whole point of the spot healing tool brush is it looks around itself. So say the circle is let me undo that. There we go. So say that I'm trying to hide this little spot, right? Right there. It'll work well because when I click in here, the area that my white circle arounds, it's going to go and bring in some pixels from around there. So when I click on that, it brought pixels from around there and it worked just fine. But if I try to do that here, it's going to bring pixels from around there, and what it has around there is more white, right? So around this tool, what I have is more white, so it doesn't seem to work. And if you go to an edge and let go, it kind of starts blending in with that line and you get some weirdnesses, which is why you have to cover the shape completely before you let go. So this is not an easy thing to fix, right? But it, anyway, so if I let go right now, like I didn't cover the middle, then it merges what's inside, which was white, with what's outside, with is brown, okay? So the only way to do this tool is to cover the piece completely. You can start with something a little bit easier. Say that you don't want this honey bottle thing, and I make the circle about as big as it, and I click and I go a little bit around like that, and I let go, then boom. Oh, I went a bit too short. It still left a little bit of it there. I should have gone. You have to have enough pixels around it for it to read outside, like a couple pixels, and then there, that worked. But had I had a smaller brush and gone around it, it would have been just as good, as long as I don't leave anything inside for it to have white to read. So you cover it, cover it, cover it, and now it can only read from outside that area. And then, well, I didn't cover it enough. And then you can go and modify again by going over those, okay? So that is an example of how to use it with a bigger or a smaller. I tend to want to make the brush just slightly bigger than the object and go around it and go on that. I'm going to undo, 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 undo. So I want that guy to stay there. But hopefully by now you've been practicing erasing stuff. Now, here's the problem. What if I want to erase this watermelon, right? I'm going to erase it. I got bigger. I'm going to head over here and I'm going to erase this watermelon. And I'm going to do like that. And I'm going to erase the watermelon. All right, let go. How did that work out? The watermelon pretty much got erased, but look at what happened down there. It erased my watermelon, but it didn't know how to reconstruct. It wasn't able to invent more of that grid. Does that make sense, you guys, what I'm saying? It gave me a big blur of grayish stuff. The watermelon's gone, but I have a blurred out, what's this called? The shelf. So I'm going to undo that. Okay. And now let's do this. Let's make a new layer, because we're going to do a different tool. I'm going to do the plus sign again. I'm going to call this one the remove tool. And it's the second one down. Even though it's a brush, they call it just the tool this time instead of a brush. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. And by the way, it also needs to say sample all layers. And this is a biggie. If you leave this on, remove after each state, I find it's a bummer. So for now, just while you're learning, take this off. Do not remove after each stroke. And I'll show you why in a minute. For now, just to learn, take it off. Sample all layers has to be on. And now, watch first. I'm going to click, instead of going gray, this tool. And again, we don't want to go too much further, but you want to go into the area and paint it. And now, when I let go, it thinks, I missed a little bit over here. I can keep making it a little bit bigger than the shape. There we go. I was able to add a bit more because I'm not, I didn't like what I had. Now that I'm ready to go, I click on this go, the check mark, or I hit my return key. Either way, it makes this thing happen. So I'm going to hit that. And now this is artificial intelligence. The tool not only removed it, but it looked around and it created a grid that wasn't there before. Pretty cool. Yeah. This tool, it's not perfect. I mean, the grids that it added, it kind of picked up from here. They're a bit brighter and these were darker. So I can still go in and darken it. So for now, I'm not going to retouch that little bit, but I can easily just retouch that to make it a little bit darker so that that doesn't look shinier. But in the context of the entire photo, it's not like I'm going to go there and look at this and go, whoa, that's bad. I just don't pay attention to it. Once I know it's there, I go, I should darken that thing a little bit. And I can. I'm going to go ahead and say, go back to command 100%. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so I can see that. And remember, if I turn everything else off, this is it. This is the only thing that's on this layer. See that? Oh, it looks like I had missed a little piece, but it worked because it was dark. So now all I need to do is I can darken that little bit over here. And I'm going to show you there's an adjustment brush you can do that with. But just to make things quicker, there's a tool that I'm going to use it in a destructive way. And it's the dodge, oh, they don't have, and the click and hold, the burn tool, which is just pass it over this to darken it a little bit. That's all I'm doing. So let me just show you that again. You click and hold on, there's like a little lollipop looking thing. That's the dodge tool. When you click and hold, there's the burn tool. And then I can go over here and I can just pass it over this area. And it's just a little localized darkening. That's all I'm doing. Not the front, because the front matched the light color, but I just did that a little bit to that. And then when I turn this one on again, that's pretty much transparent. That was destructive, but all I did is a destructive thing on the little piece that has been just added, okay? And I'm okay with that right now. But note that if I want to go back to the earlier lighter one, I can't, because that was a destructive modification just on the little bit that covers a watermelon, okay? But for now, we're going to try not to do that kind of destructive modification much unless we're doing it just temporarily for just a little bit. Other than that, I should have ideally made a mask to it, darken that area, but we're trying to go a little bit simpler. So that was the burn tool. If I were to lighten something, it would go to the, I would do it, and I'm turning these off so you can see that I'm truly working on that. If I wanted to lighten something, I would have to go to the dodge tool, and then I can lighten something. And anyway, I'm not going to do that right now, but that's the lighten or the darken tool. Okay. Now, just so you know, has any of you guys exist and done photography in the type of in the time of photography, darkroom kind of photography? Mary Ellen. So have you printed in a darkroom? So these tools is what we used in a darkroom. You would go into a darkroom, and when something burned too hot, you would dodge the light from it, or you would add with a little mask more light on it. That's the dodge and burn. Okay, so for people who now young people are going to, ooh, it's cool to do it the old way. They're going back into the darkroom. But these are the tools we used for eons, dodge and burn. So they're still there. They just don't get used as much because there's other tools. But anyway. So that's the remove tool. Now I'm going to go ahead and see if I can remove something else. And it's pretty magical, pretty magical. So I'm going to see what it does when I have to get rid of this entire person here. So first, let me just show you what the spot tool would have done, which I have to admit, the spot tool is the only tool we had for a long time, and it's not a bad tool. The spot healing tool, and I'm just gonna do it really quick and then I'll delete it. I would have done maybe something like that and covered about yay much. And when I let go, not bad-ish, huh? not bad. It kind of got wonky there on the lines. Lines are always a bit of a problem. And here it just duplicated the things from here to there. You can see the exact same board here was put there and was put there. You see how it's identical? And then the grass here, if you could see here, this patch is identical to that patch and to that patch, but hey, not bad, not bad. Sometimes much worse. I'm going to undo that. That's all we had to work with for years. Now, well, not even that many years. That one is, I'd say the spot healing brush used to not be this good. It got this good, I'd say, the last couple of years, but it's been around for like, I'd say 8 years or so. And before you would have to just, do little bits and pieces. Now, that was not bad. But instead, now I'm going to change it to the remove tool. And let me actually zoom into it a little bit more. No, I want to see all of it, so I can't zoom in that much. Now I've changed the remove tool. Again, I'm going to get bigger. And I'm going to draw. Remember, you always need to draw a little bit around it. You need to give it some leeway. Like over there in the pants, it's not enough. I need to give it a little bit more. But I don't want to do a lot, because if I do a lot, then I'm actually removing all of this. And that's not something we want to do. So if you went over too much, just like we did before, the option tool takes away. See how in the middle there's a plus sign? Then I can just, with the option tool or alt tool, I can take away all the stuff that was too much, right? So I just wanted to leave a little bit around her, but definitely not too much. Whoops, now I went too little. So now I let go of my option and I add a little bit there, okay? So if that's what I want removed, and I think I need a little bit more there, when I've done covering it, now I hit the return key or I click on this little guy there, and the computer is going to start thinking. And now it did that, which ultimately it's better, but in this case, it's still messed up one of these lines. That's always the place that's hardest. And again, what did it have to do? All it can do is go to what's there and repeat it. So in this case, that is very obviously, just like before, a repetition. So after you do any of these tools, you have to go and fix it. And the way to fix this would be, for example, now with the regular spot tool, I guess you could do it with the remove tool again. You can go in and just do that and have it remove that little tiny bit, for example. You could try that. Or sometimes you just redraw over the stuff that didn't go well and hit the return again, and it does another attempt. And in this case, it seemed to go much better. It's not the same as that. And if you really wanted the same as that, then you have the fourth tool, the clone tool. For now, let's stay in the remove tool. And I'm going to slowly drag myself up and check on every other place that got replaced and see how it's the exact same green thing. And here where there was a line like that, I see that line again and again. See that? Because there wasn't much more for it to do. I mean, when this was gone, all it had was that. So based on only that, it gave me more of that repeatedly. So it's a pretty good job, but it's up to me to go in there and do my best to reassign, realign, and without, I like doing that with the spot tool. Then I go back and I kind of rearrange these so that it just looks a little bit more random. Over here, the little brick pattern, I'll do like that and let it kind of, and maybe the green, I'm not sure, because then it would kind of have to borrow from itself. So I'm not sure that I can do, but just disrupting it a tiny bit, even if it's not perfect, it kind of looks like it might be a different patch of grass, right? So I'm just kind of doing some stuff there. This is pretty forgiving. And I mess it up a little bit so it's not identical. Other stuff, even though it's the same patch there to there, that line might be obvious. So then you just go to this line and just kind of rework over it. And right now I'm using my spot healing tool. I'm not in my remove tool anymore. So it's not AI, it's just this one that's going around. So you need, if I look carefully, that is the same as that. By the way, when people say that something is photoshopped and others don't or whatever, this is the kind of thing people look at. Do you guys remember? I think I did some screenshots of this because it was so perfect, but I don't know where it happened. If anyone who follows the like celebrity news and stuff like that, the princess of England, Kate, what's her name? A year ago, I don't know how long ago, said that she had cancer, I believe, and she hadn't been seen for a while, and she sent a photo of her family. And I don't know if you guys remember, this is why I caught onto it. There was an uproar saying she had photoshopped it. And if you at all were interested in Photoshop, you would have read that and go, what? And then you go in there and people who are experts began making little circles pointing it out. And yes, the cuff of one thing was repeated in another cuff. This thing was like little details that were left over from not a very good job of retouching. She had actually changed reality. And I guess if you're a royal, you're not allowed to do that. I don't know why, but for some reason, I guess, because for her family portrait, she could have done it. But if it's in the news can't, and this has to do with something happened national. The news isn't allowed to show retouched photos. Okay. So by giving that photo to the news, the news had published a photo that was retouched. And I'm just saying all of this because it goes into rights. It goes into so much stuff that is so interesting to me, but I don't want to get too into it. But basically, eons ago, when all these retouchings appeared, National Geographic, the magazine known for its photography, moved a pyramid over of the pyramids of Egypt, the most iconic thing. It moved it over a bit to make space for something. And the uproar was humongous because everyone who knows that place knows that there's no way the pyramid could have been there. And all the rules of publication changed. And now if you publish something that's news or how do you call it, documentary or things like that, you're allowed to make things brighter, like we've been doing, darker, brighter, things like that. But you cannot remove reality, replace reality, change a smiling head for an unhappy head. You're not allowed to do that in publishing. And so that's why I'm telling you this whole story, not because I care about royalty, but because it was like, oh, she offered a photograph, and even then she couldn't have done it because it was published as news. Anyway, and she should have taken this class to know how to alter things so that there's no way you can tell that there's been a copy. Yes, Dan?
You know how your wood seam was off a little bit on the wall?
Yeah.
So mine was like twice as far over for some reason. Yours was pretty
Yeah.
close and it seemed to pick it up, but mine
Yeah.
was shifted over almost in the middle of the edge of the photo and where that
It
seam is.
depends on what you chose. And one of the things that the remove tool that they say is go over it again or undo and do it again. But in particular, go over it again and again, and it might do a better job. And if it doesn't, then undo them and start from scratch, but it's always with the remove tool. But I am going to fix that anyway. I'm going to show you the final tool, the cloning tool, and then you can fix that too. But when the initial thing is not just a little bit off, but it's very off, what they recommend is to keep running over it, and you basically are telling the artificial intelligence motor that it needs to think again and it needs to retry that one.
I guess based on what you said earlier, if it's only using pixels nearby it and it's got
no,
a smooth...
that's the spot healing tool. That's a spot healing tool, uses
Okay.
pixels around it. But the remove tool uses artificial intelligence,
Okay.
and it goes back to the thing and gives you another try and another try until you get
Okay.
one that's a bit better.
Does it matter when you're using these tools what zoom setting you're in? Like, does it matter as far as, or it's
No,
just a
this is
matter of
just
the...
for you to see it better or not. But if you want to see if this is good or not, go to Command 1, because if you can't see it in Command 1, then it's good enough. When I see it closer is for me to kind of look at the details, but this is not realistic. People won't see it like that. People will see it like that.
And
Right?
the
So
other
that
thing is,
should be.
when you're using those specific tools, since you already have layers set aside for them, every time you use one tool or the other, is it best to just stay in the respective layer? So that,
No, this
or
I'm
it
doing
doesn't
as a,
matter?
no, this is just a teaching so that you can see the difference between the removes. But had you done one thing and you were doing all these at the same time, that would have worked. That said, when I do anything major, I still personally do, let me cancel, do put them in separate layers because, and this is, might seem, why do I do that? Is because if I now, for example, wanted to alter the watermelon little bit or this little bit, this one might need to be darkened and this one lightened, and I'm still gonna have to make a mask for individual parts and pieces versus if I had done this big remove on a different layer, I could just darken or lighten it without having to mask out the other piece. So when it's a big, in this case, it's so small, it wouldn't matter. But if you're doing some big changes, it's better to do them on separate layers so that you have more control of additions or changes you want to do, right? But other than that, it's not a huge difference. But see, basically over here, you can see this is new. So down here, somewhere here is the line of new stuff. And if I undo, if I turn off this eyeball, then I stop seeing that. But because it was all the same one, when I stopped seeing that, I also stopped seeing the watermelon. And sometimes you want to see those change. Maybe the other one had been about the stump and this, and you don't want to see them both at the same time. You want to be able to individually turn one on and off to see the results. See what I mean? So that's the only reason I would use more layers. Ultimately, later you can just join them all, but it gives you more flexibility. But if all you're going to do is one big swoop, then you can put them all in the same one. The only place I don't recommend doing them is on the original one, because then if you don't like it, you're kind of stuck. Okay. But as long as you did it in a different layer, non-destructively, you can just get rid of it and start again, and you still have your original.
And like you said earlier, if we wanted to use burn and dodge, I think that was the
Yeah,
names you
yeah,
used.
yeah.
You could set up separate layers for that or just one layer for them.
Yeah,
And actually
normally,
that
yeah,
doesn't become destructive then?
as long as you do it on a separate layer. I did,
Okay.
no, but I did, no, it was destructive. This little bit that I darkened, here, this little bit that I darkened onto the pixels that were invented by the computer, but I darkened it onto the pixels, so that was destructive. Ideally, when you're doing a bigger thing, you would even have masked this and done a non-destructive darkening with the levels of just that little bit. But I'm trying to teach you guys, and if I get too much into the weeds, I end up like getting, but yeah, once you know all the things, whenever I work with stuff, I do everything in multiple, you see my files and there's these many layers. And then when I'm done and I'm sure, then I can collect a few and say, okay, this one for sure is done, and I collect them, but I'll never flatten to the original, right? But yeah, the more detailed you are, the better. But ultimately, the remove tool is made to be intelligent enough to hopefully not need that many. But yeah, so anyway, over here, if you've got something weird over here, I'm going to show you the clone tool in a minute, but you could have gotten something weird in a different place, and I'm going to show you that. Maybe I don't want this patch of non-grassy area. Maybe what I wanted here was more of this grass. If so, the remove tool isn't going to help me, and the spot tool isn't going to help me. Does that make sense? The spotting tool will move those pixels around, but it'll still look patchy. The remove tool is gonna, I don't even know what the remove tool would do. It would give me what? Maybe it'll give me more of this grass. It might work, actually. I don't know. I was gonna say I would have used the clone tool for that, but I'm curious now. If I do use the remove tool on this area, it did bring grass from over here, so it kind of worked, right? So there you go. Kind of, because when I approach, there's that weirdness there, but that's okay. I can go in there and redo this little thing. And yeah, so anyway, it's kind of, I'm amazed that the remove tool worked for that, because it had to look around what would be it's the artificial intelligence. What's the most logical thing? It could have put in mulch, it could have put in stuff, but it chose there's grass, it put more grass, so it kind of worked. I'm going to undo that because I do want to have an area to show you what the clone tool does. But yeah, that worked. Now, things that it can remove well have been pretty isolated. That was isolated. If I were to try to remove this entire bicycle, I have a feeling that would be a bit harder. I'm going to make a new layer right now, and I'm going to say bicycle. Bicycle, sickle. And I'm going to try it. I tried it as a sample earlier to see, and I have so many things, so much complexity here that it didn't do a good job. But let's see. I'm gonna see what it's gonna do this time. And in this case, it's probably gonna do better if I don't give it such a little hole in there, because I'm telling it, like if I take this minus and I get this hole like that, because I want only the bicycle removed, I think that'll be more problematic because it's gonna try to leave that bit. But I don't know. I'm gonna try both. And all of these, when I say I don't know, it's not that I don't know, it's just that the tool will do one thing one day and another, like you said, for you guys, it worked differently than for me. And for every time you do it, the tool will look around and do what it can do. So sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. Just make sure you have everything covered that needs to be covered. And sometimes it's hard to see if it's the same color. And now,
Pedal. The pedal.
oh, thank you. That little bottom pedal. Thank you. Cool. And now let me give it a try. Yeah, much better than the first time, but look at what happened to the edge of that building. And the trunk doesn't end anywhere there, nor here. It just gave me bark and I mean, seen from afar, it's like there's no bicycle there. But you can't see it from afar. You do need to go at least to command 1. And I would say probably to command 2 to 100% to notice that this is truly not a possible shape, that trunks don't merge into trunks. That's the worst of it here. Then you don't have, this we could still fix. This edging actually is fixable with the clone tool, but this trunk like that makes no sense. Now I'm going to undo that. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say bicycle 1. I'm going to try there. I'm going to try what they said about going over it again. I highly doubt that this is going to help to go over it again, because how does it know that this is one trunk and that's another trunk? I don't think it can fix it. Got better. It's now made this texture different than that texture, but they're still connected. You see how it did change a little bit? Let me see if I go over this, if it fixes that.
It lost the gravel in the middle.
Look at that. It fixed that.
What
So
if you
fix
did
that.
one trunk at a time?
I don't know that it would know to separate them. Let's try.
Before they got merged.
Yeah, well, so basically I can keep working on this and show you that, or so given everything, that's pretty amazing, but it didn't separate them. So now what I can do here, and this is what I wanted to show you, is that there's a chance that I could mask this. I'm gonna give it a little mask and see, because what's under that is that hole right there. And see, the bicycle is right on the edge of where you can see that this is a separate trunk. And so the computer wasn't able to do that. But maybe what I can do with a brush, with the good old masking tools that I had before, is maybe bring that hole back. And when I do that, I'm bringing parts of the bicycle back, right? But now I go backwards and I take, so I went and did from black to white, white to black, and I cover the bicycle part again. And for better or for worse, this could look like one is merging into the other if I'm not too careful. Maybe I just try to put in a rock over here. And if so, we might be able to get away with it. Does that make sense? So this is why I tried to have it separately. I made a mask where I hid part of what they gave me. But that's a little bit advanced, knowing where to do individual masks, but that's an example of what could be done. I wouldn't do either of those. What I would do is try it again, and this time try not to get any of that black in my request. So I'm going to do one more attempt, and in my retouch in my remove tool this time, I'm going to try and see if I can. Remove tool. I'm going to see if I can be much more careful here and see if it leaves some of that black stuff. See what I mean? And then I'm going to fill it in, but I'm going to try to have this be more accurate. And I'm not sure if it's going to be worse or better, if it's going to need more information or not, but that's what I'm going to try. Cool. So now that I did that, now I can go back with a bigger brush and, you know, gather all of this because I'm going to need both of the wheels and then both of these wheels. Now I'm going to zoom in and do my best to grab the stuff that clearly has to change and spend a little bit more time outlining it in general. I've had, with this effect, I've had a better result and a worse result. Because leaving that little hole there can be problematic, but I'm going to try it this time as if I'm really outlining just the bicycle. I'm just curious. Just leave a teensy bit around. Here's the pedal. Here's the ends of this tire. I'm giving it less to invent, which, as I said, could be good or bad. I'm going to get rid of this place here where I covered the grass because I'm going to just have it keep as much original grass as it can have. Right, so I'm doing my best to not over cover. In general, they recommend going big, but I'm just trying the opposite just to see what happens. The pedal was all of that. And
How
then I
did
guess
you erase some of that?
you go to the option Alt
Okay.
and you turn it into a negative. So if I am trying to not say that I do that and I don't want that, hold down the Option or Alt key and it turns into a minus and it goes negative. And then you take away things are done. Now, when I did this in the past, it didn't do better, just so you know. So, but it did better in this area. It didn't do better with the bike. But as I said, each time is a new attempt. So now that I think I've covered it all, now I'm going to hit my my tool, and it's thinking, it's thinking, it's thinking. I'm going to do Command 1. Wow. This time it was better. It left that. This isn't perfect, but I can bring with a clone tool some gravel from there. That's almost good. See, there's some mulch suddenly in the trunk. Never mind, I can copy some of that. And in fact, what they say is just go over it again. And yeah, look, it knew to put trunk in there. How about here? Yeah, look at that. It fixed that edge. I'm amazed. Every time I try this, something new it's getting more and more intelligent. I don't know about this though. No, see there, it just gave me. So over here, I'm gonna have to do it by hand. But the fact that it did most of it on its own and that there's only a few things that I need to do by hand, I'm shocked. I'm gonna have to, what I can do is I can copy this and reverse it and paste it over here and kind of fake it. And that is something how we would have done it before. And it could still happen. But I'm amazed. This is, of all the times I tried it, best bicycle. Just best non-bicycle, in fact, not that. It even left that yellow there. That's cool. Versus this one had kind of put some green in there and had done all that weird merging. So actually, that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. I'm pretty impressed. There's things that need to be fixed, no doubt, but on the whole, the things that I would fix would come with this other tool. I'd go, and so I keep saying this other tool, the healing brush allows you to completely copy something from somewhere else, or the clone tool, which is this one. So there's two different brushes I could use, but I'm going to go ahead and do a plus sign again. And I'm going to go to the healing brush tool, which is this one. And this one is a bit more complicated to use, but just let me show it to you. I'm going to sample this here, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to just, whoops, I'm going to sample over there, And I'm gonna put in some gravel in that area. I'm actually bringing gravel from over there into here. And it's not perfect, but the edge of this trunk is missing, see that? But maybe I can bring a little bit of that in there. For the most part, I can grab a little bit of this and then invert it over there and give it a new edge. Like a little bit of an edge right there. So I'm taking bits and pieces of other places and put it back here. So here I would have to invert a little piece of that edge to give this trunk an ending. But now if I go to Command 1, I see gravel there in between the legs. And so if I don't pay that too much attention, what I need to do now is give it an edge here and there that I can copy from some other part of the image. In this case, this is the only other part, and then I'd be done. So that's what the healing brush does. It copies, right? So say that I want to bring this little box of melons in over here. I would have to use the healing brush for that. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to put the healing brush over here. And it won't be perfect, but look, I'm going to bring that box of melons over here. See that? And it's bringing the shelves and stuff like that. But this is actually something that you wouldn't be able to tell the remove tool to do. You can say that I want this sign. I want it over here. So I'm going to bring that sign so that there's 2 of these signs, right? And it's adapting a little bit, and it's the lines right now of the wood aren't perfect, but then I can go and mask those lines out and then it'll work. I should have put this one right on the right line. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to say Option click, and I'm going to teach you how to use this in a minute, but I'm going to say Option click on a line where there's an edge. And then over here, I'm going to put that on a line. And now when I do this here, it's a different perspective. So the lines are a bit different, but I can just fix that perspective. So this is just to show, like show and tell, and then I'll go and say, and I'll show you how to do this yourselves. And now with this one here, I can kind of skew it or move it in such a way that I might be able to, oh, I didn't make it on a new layer, so I can't do that. I should have done it on a new layer. So I can have the lines match down there a little bit more. And a little bit more over here. And a teensy bit more over there, just showing you as possible, and then I'll have you guys do it. So now that I've kind of matched the lines, that's what I was trying to do. Now I can mask it, and now I can get rid of some of the stuff that I didn't like from before. That shouldn't be there. And that shouldn't be there. And I stopped my copying before I got the blue there. That's my call for a break. So if I hadn't stopped ahead of time and stopped there, then you look at that and it looks like I have that one got a little bit skewed, but it looks like it's in the right position for where those lines are, right? For that one. That is the last one, the healing brush tool. Okay, we copy something into some other place. I'm going to go ahead and show you the healing tool after the break, because that was my alarm for a break, and that alone is going to take quite a while. So I'm going to undo the healing tool up to here. No, I think I had up to here. So I'm back to having that instead of gravel. And I'm down to this. Okay, so this is, I've undid all the stuff that I just showed you. And now I'm going to take a question or two, and then when we come back, I'm going to call this on the healing brush. And then we're going to create some stuff in here that doesn't exist. Please save your file and then yes, Rachel?
Yes, I'm still having problem with the remove tool.
Okay,
I was
yeah.
working on the bike and
Share your screen? Yeah,
Oh.
I've tried this bike a few times. This is the time it worked best, I have to say. So I'm not surprised that some of your bikes worked and some didn't. Try it with simpler things and it's been working amazingly well. The bike was the one where it was a bit of a catch. Okay, so show me.
okay, it should say sharing. Can I
Yeah,
move
yeah.
it?
No, I can see it, but show me the result or do it in front of me or whatever it
Oh,
is.
okay, yeah, this is where, okay, I didn't have a mask on it.
No, 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 you don't need to. Is that
Oh.
bicycle one empty? That layer is empty?
Yeah, like
Okay. Yeah,
there's
so
nothing on it.
as long as there's nothing
Like
on it,
that.
that's fine. Okay, so go back and yeah, make it, no. Yeah, once you have it, you have it. You don't need to keep going back to grab it. You have the remove tool in your hand, you have it.
Okay,
Yeah, and now start going around it. I would go a little bit bigger than that, but go for it.
yeah, it's a little small.
Okay, so it's gonna take a little while to do that while we're all watching. Can
Mhm.
you said it didn't work, so can you explain?
Oh, this is what I got. Maybe because when I release, it says.
Oh, yeah,
use-
because up at the top, you didn't write sample all layers.
Oh,
Say okay to that. Say okay to that tool. And then, yeah, you need to go up to sample all layers because it's basically telling you're selecting stuff that there's nothing there. Now it'll work. There you go. That's why I know
Okay.
this is working.
okay,
The sample all layers matters because it knows to go and sample from the original layer and make that there. It'll work. So I'm going to stop your share. That was what was the problem.
okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Anyone else who has a question about the process and who or her who wants to share, please do screenshot. Oh, let me put the clip to the link to the clipboard. The link to the in the chat, I'm putting the link to the Padlet. I'm sorry. And hopefully I can see your guys' results now. Okay, and remember, results that can be good or bad. I only see 2 posted. This one from Rebecca was the spot healing brush tool, and I'm not sure what you got rid of here because I'm only seeing a little dot over there. Oh, that little tiny, yeah, that was the little white thing on there. Okay. So now go ahead and sorry. I'm gonna exit that one. The X is so dark, I can barely see it. There we go. And then Rebecca over here, you removed the watermelon and you burned it in. It's perfect. I mean, there's no way I could tell that there wasn't anything else there. Great. I want to see more, you guys. Please post your watermelons at least should be pretty good. And your bicycles, I want to see that. I want to see because I'm expecting a lot of different results for the bicycle, good and bad. Okay, all right. And then Rebecca, you kept posting. Here's your bicycle that was removed. And the person from the edge and the bicycle. And look at that. Wow, not bad. Whoops. I hate when I try to approach. Look at that. That is, I mean, if you really get picky, there's no edge to that. This is much better even than the one I did, because really you're only missing that edge and that edge. And his foot got a little bit mangled here, but you know what? It's so easy to, I'll show you, you'll take a little bit of this layer, invert it, and you can put it in here and blend it in and here too, and you'll have that doing really well. Yeah, the foot might be a little problematic. You might want to go in and mask out that little bit. I can't get closer on these screenshots so that we can see the foot better. All right, let me see some more responses. Aaron, burn the shelf, remove the person. So everyone here is doing great. Shelf and person. I want to see some removed bikes. Here we go, Peggy. All right, now in this case, Well, Jesus, whenever I try to approach, Padlet doesn't like to be approached upon. This one here will have will need more help. This is more like my ended up like this. So you're gonna have to bring in some gravel from there to make a little space of gravel. Maybe straighten this guy up again with a little move, and then again we'll have to kind of recreate the ends of this one. This looks a bit more like the one I ended up with. So we'll work on it when we get back. Gerard. Oh wow. Okay, Gerard did it. He brought in the other edge. Look at that. Woof. While I'm explaining the bait, I can't zoom into this much. But look, guys.
I had
Ah.
a good teacher.
Well, Gerard's taken this class a few times, right? And there you go. So he went in and look at how he managed to recreate that edge, and he managed to recreate this edge. There's a little bit of
By
a
the way,
tiny bit of a ghost.
I didn't use the spot healing tool, Diana.
Okay, what did you
I
use?
just used my remove tool because I've got a newer computer.
Ah,
Amazing job.
and then the foot
Yeah, I missed
is
that.
so it's no, but the foot is so minor in this picture that I'm really focusing on it. But if you don't look at it, that is fine. If this were to go into a magazine or something like that, they'd go, oh, the foot didn't look so good. But maybe you can try just isolating the foot and doing a remove tool on it and see if it kind of fixes it. But it's amazing. Wow, good job. I mean, everyone, good job. I mean, everyone is doing a great job trying. And as I said, sometimes it works better and sometimes worse. And we're all learning, right? And then over here, this one is I'm not sure what you're showing here. The bicycles, oh, the removal of the person there. Okay. If I look over here, though, there's something a bit strange happening. I'm not liking this result so much. And that's what you need to check and then redo it, because see how here it kind of picked up these lines and dun, 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 and dun, 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 dun. So if that's happening, either go over it again with your spot tool or do it again, right? Because this looks like when you selected, you left very little amount of gravel left from your selection. So it only had a bit like that to copy from. So it went and put it 20 times. Versus if you'd gone a bit nearer to the woman or whatever that was, you would have had a patch about this big of gravel. And so it would have only done like one repetition and a half versus like 8. Does that make sense? So that one you might want to just try that again. All right. Great job, everyone posting their stuff. I'm going to give us a break and then we're going to keep going. What time is it? 2:45. So I'll see you at 2:30 p.m. Great. See you guys in a little. Hello, hello. I'm back. You might have noticed that I swear I'm not dyslexic, but when I said at 2:44, I've many other things, but not dyslexic, but I set the timer for 15 minutes ahead. I said to be back at 2:30 and it was already 2:45. Of all the things that I don't tend to do. Yeah, so I'm glad y'all figured out that it was at 3. Okay, so any questions? While this was gone, let me look. I haven't been here to see updates. Gerard, did it work? Removal tool to repair, put in yellow step. Wow, oh, I'm not sharing. It really did. It did fix your toe. Look at that. It made a foot that looks like a foot. It's pretty amazing, huh? And then you have the rest of it was already looking wonderful. Let me see, Rachel. Okay, so we still have a bit of that stuff going on that we can retouch with different tools. Nick, oh, where did Nick's go? Over here. I left the tire. Interesting, was able to somewhat successfully replace the foot in the background. Yeah, and not only that, but it actually, by not having the tire go over this, you kind of still have a bit of a trunk going here. But yeah, this one's hard because the bike is right over the ending of that one. So that really has to be kind of recreated. But over here, more my concern is that you have like a little jagged bit here. And that jagged bit is a little bit fake. And then here's what we talked about, these lines not coinciding. So I'm going to work with the removal tool, the healing tool right now, so we can work on stuff like that. Thank you guys. Great showing. Disappearing watermelon, spot removal tool. Great. All right. Mary Ellen, you have a question.
Yeah, I created a layer for the bicycle using the removal tool, but when it processed, it left the bicycle in place. When I went to the one where the image was, I could remove it. But with the
Go ahead and share your screen, because at this point, once it gets like things that I need to see what happened, then I just go for sharing. Because then I can follow along with what did or didn't happen. So I tell the anecdote that I've been telling for many years that the first money I ever made with Photoshop was when I was still in college, where I had to Photoshop someone's aunt who hadn't been able to come to the family reunion, and they took a picture and I had to make her look like she was there. In the old times of Photoshop, that took a lot of work to do it right. And that's what I was doing at first. I was still in college. I was actually retouching real photos because I'm good at retouching, and people would pay me to retouch their photos with ink, I mean. And then I segued to retouching them in Photoshop. Next thing I know, here we are 20 years later, and at the touch of a button, things happen. Marianne, I'm still waiting for you to share your screen, and you're not sharing yet. So I'm telling an anecdote, but all I'm saying is I would not be so easy to make money now, because just a couple of clicks later, the computer is amazing what it's able to do. So I'm looking at your layers, and the reason you're not seeing that thing in the bottom that says bicycle 2 is because it's under a layer that's completely opaque, which is original. So you need to drag it above. Yeah, drag it up. You have to grab it from there, yeah, and just drag it up. Yeah. And I don't know how it ended up getting there, but now you can see what happened, and what happens is it's kind of a half bicycle or something. Turn all the other eyeballs off so we can see what each one has. Down, and even the bottom one. Okay, and on this one, that's all you have. The beginning of the bicycle was updated. Now turn on the eyeball of the other two that are white, not the bottom one, because that won't let us see anything. See what's in that one and in that one. Looks like you don't have anything in either one of those two. Go turn off the eye of the bicycle to see if maybe there's something behind that. Okay, so the other two are empty. So at this point, Either they haven't been used or, you know, you've been doing your retouching on the original if you did the brush or something like that. But the only one that has anything, so you can get rid of the other two layers or use them later, but the only one that has anything is the top one. And it has like a partial bicycle, so you might want to do that again. Go ahead and do Command 0 so I can see the whole thing to see if maybe you do have something in there, but it's like Command 0. It says send. Yeah. Yeah, so that's your whole image and you don't have anything. You can turn on the original layer now so we can see the whole image. The eyeball. You have to cancel because that was not the eyeball. So then this layer style turns on to say cancel to that. Yeah, and now turn on the eyeball of that layer. Yeah, so the layer above it doesn't seem to have anything. And then the layer on top is the partial bicycle. So you just need to do it again on another new layer. Instead, the one that says bicycle that has nothing, select that layer. Select the layer, yeah, and now go and do try again to do the removal and it'll appear on this one. Okay, I'm gonna let you go while you're doing that. I stopped the share and now I'll continue. Anyone else, guys? Questions, things that worked or didn't work? Yep. All right. So nothing coming up. We're just going to do a little bit more. I'm seeing Dan also put a sample there. Go and check out what people are doing, guys. The day I had fun with this photo was the first time that I ever saw the removal tool some time ago. And I got it to the point that there was like nothing on those shelves, nothing was being sold, everything was blank. There were no flowers. You know, you start playing around, you can do a lot. But that's not the point of why I do photography. Meaning I'm more of a people documentary photographer kind of thing, and I don't necessarily want to fake things too much, but I do believe that this photo without that, this one, that there worked better, right? And so if this is the photo you have, and it's not, as I said, news, then yeah, why not just take that bit out? But you know, the rest of it is more for fun and attempting to do it or something like that, but it's not that it's necessary. Now I want to stop for a minute. I want to put all of these that we're doing in one group so we can turn them all off at the same time. And then I want to try something new. Oh, I had done the spot healing brush tool here, but I didn't use it yet, right? Yeah, I had it, but I didn't use it. So I'm going to just put it up on top. So all of these that we did, I'm going to select them all. So how you select them all, you select one, hold down the shift key and go to the bottom one. We're not including the original, just all the different layers where we use the removal and the healing brush and the spot healing brush. So include them all. Sorry, I was leaving that one out. Include them all. And this is just to show you also how to do groups. And now I'm going to head down here to this little folder kind of shape. I'm in a folder and click one time. And I've put them all in a group, which is retouching tools. Okay. And now I can turn all of those on and off at the same time without having to, you know, do that and this. And especially if you have different versions and you didn't want to turn one on and off, you just turn this eyeball off to the folder. And that's the before and after. Okay. And if you want to see them, you click on this tiny little arrow and you open them up and there they are. That's when you start having a ton of layers, it's really good to begin to isolate parts and pieces of things that you're doing. So anyway, that's a good one. Now, the healing brush tool is the one that I haven't shown you yet. And if you haven't made that, make one. But watch, if you now say make new layer, and this is what you have, and I click on a new layer, it's going to happen outside of the retouching tools group. I'm going to undo that. But if I'm inside the retouching tools, and I have one of the retouching tools selected, for example, then when I make a new one, it's going to fall inside of that group. Okay. So if you want this to be part of the group, you can click on select the retouching tools or any of the layers, and there you get the new layer. Okay. And let's make a new layer and let's call it healing brush. Mary Ellen, yep. You're muted.
I missed how to create a group, how you selected all
yeah.
the layers.
So, yeah, so let me actually, name change, where did I create my group? Create group. So I'm gonna go one above where I created the group. Okay, so basically I grabbed all the ones that I have above the original, and you can either start from the bottom or the top and click on one, hold down your shift key and click on the top one, kind of like the two bookends. So once again, select one, hold down the shift key and select the bottom one. This is a computer shortcut, the entire world, be it Excel, be it Photoshop, be it Windows, PC. Anytime you need to select everything in between two things, this works. And then now go down to where we made our new layers, and right next to it, there's a little folder looking kind of thing. That's your groups. You click on that and everything you selected will go into that group. By the way, you can move things in and out of that group. If I now want this one to go in there, I can just drag it and drop it in like that. I can undo. Or if I want something in this group to go out, I can just drag it out and put it out, you know, so it's not like they're immovable groups, but it helps. And then I double clicked on the word group one and I call that retouching tools and hit the return. So that's my little retouching tools folder. All right, so now let's head over to the healing brush. Hopefully you all made a new layer now, and we're going to be in the healing brush. And we're going to go grab the healing brush, which is this guy, the third of the brushes. I'm looking at the time. I want to make sure that I have time to segue into the, there's so many retouching tools that it's ridiculous if I go one by one to teach them to you. But I wanted to show you the most important one now, which is that one, the remove tool. But then there's these others. A lot of this is kind of, there were 5 tools, but so much is done by the removal tool that there's not so much need of the others. But these do specific things that the removal tool won't do. The removal tool isn't called the fix everything tool. It's called the removal tool. So if you're going to remove something, it works. But when you want to move something, right, or replace something or copy something, then you need the other tools. So let's start with, and I'm gonna, let me see. Do I want to practice on a different image? What other images do we have here? Let's have some fun. Let's, oh no, that's a DNG. I think this, we're just going to stick with this one. Yeah. I do this sometimes with the boy needs, face needs cleanup. Let's just do that. Let's open that one. If you've done this one before, try it with another image, but let's double click and get into this one. So obviously you can imagine how you can go crazy with the retouching spot tool and make his face have no pimples whatsoever, but I'll let you do that on your own. Let's go ahead and make a new layer, and we're going to practice the healing brush tool. And then we're going to go and see how you do use it in the other place, because it's going to be a little bit more complicated. First, let's get down just taking the system. So here we're going to go. Select it's the third one down, and when you hover, it has to say healing brush tool. Okay, so now watch what it's going to do. Just watch me. Just watch. And maybe write down there's a sequence of events kind of thing. I am going to say that what I want, and we're going to turn this kid into a monster. I am going to say that I want him to have another eye on top of his forehead. I want an eyeball right there. So I'm going to copy something that exists and put it somewhere else. Imagine if you have bird flies in the sky, you might want another bird here and there, right? That would be a more usable thing. But we're going to turn this guy into a monster. So what I'm going to do is, with my brush, can be either large or small. It doesn't matter technically, but you want to have it be kind of like just now. If you want to draw around this eye, it's going to take a lot more time to draw around this eye correctly if you have a tiny little brush, but you don't want to do a ton more than necessary. So I'm going to go about yay big to start again. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sample of what needs to be copied. So in this case, this eyeball needs to be copied. And I'm gonna bring the whole eye, ideally without a new brow, just this eye. So I take the sample. So the step is the following one. Hold down the Option or Alt key, and my mouse turns into a target. So once you keep it down, then you do it just a one click on your mouse. Just one click on your mouse over your finger on a touchpad, one single click on your touchpad, and then you let go of your hands, period. So that's a little sampling. It's like you go in and take a little like a biopsy, just a little sampling of that. Now watch, when I move I'm not dragging, I'm not clicking, I'm just dragging it out. I'm bringing a little bit of that eyeball with me. In fact, look, if I now make my thing bigger or smaller, I'm kind of bringing a patch of that eyeball with me. Okay. Let me leave it about yay big. And obviously I didn't notice I have a very soft brush. So maybe somewhere a tiny bit harder might be better. So then you see, but I'm not sure let's just put it at 50-ish%. Oh, and by the way, over here, it also needs to say all layers. Instead of sample all layers, the default is just current layer. So if you did this before, it won't work. So do it again, do the sampling again, because if you sampled it without having said all layers, then the sample has nothing to copy. So now let's do it again. Go and do Option or Alt and click in the middle of his eyeball. And now you should be bringing out a little black splotch, which is the center of his eyeball. Now, if you're not doing it and just watching, that's fine. I'm going to do this again. Now, I'm going to click and drag. And don't look at the forehead right now. Look at his eyeball. Do you see a little plus sign that's in the middle of his eyeball? That's the place where I did my sampling. And as I move my mouse up in his forehead, the plus sign on his eyeball is telling me where I'm copying from, and I'm not lifting up my mouse. I am not lifting up my mouth. I am just doing it continuously. It's really important not to lift up your mouse at this point because you don't want to start it again. So I am drawing up here, but I'm really looking at my plus sign on the eye. That's really what I'm looking at, even though my mouse is up there, because I'm trying to make sure that I don't get, like, I don't want to do that and get some eyebrow in, for example, which I did this now. I'm gonna have to fix that. I just want to get only this eye. Okay, so say if I go up, see how I start getting a bit of eyebrow? I didn't want that. Okay, I need to look at the white plus sign. Okay, I'm gonna undo that and do that one more time. I click in a place where I have enough space to put that eye. If I start over here and then I can't fix it, that's not going to work. And also, if you clicked in the tip of his eye and made your sample in the tip of his eye, then you have to start over here because the eye is going to fit that whole spot. You need to have space to put that eye, right? So where you started your click, you need to have enough space. And when you're done, go through it enough times that it's not very, very light or hard to see. And once you're done, you just let go of your mouse. And here I have made this guy have an eye on his forehead. Turn it on and off. I have copied the eye. I want you to tell me, first of all, to do it. I'm going to do it one more time. And then I want you to tell me what is different about the original eye and the new eye. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Oh, I didn't mean to do that, did I? Sorry.
Pale.
What's that?
It's pale. It's the intensity's not there.
Yeah. Now this is a pretty dark eye. And this is a very light forehead. So this tool copies the texture and adapts to the color that you're going to. So it makes an eyeball over here that was dark, right? From a dark spot, and it goes, ooh, I have to merge. This is the part of it that was intelligent, so to say, in that it merges. And since it's a lighter color skin, it merges and turns. In fact, if you got too much of the left stuff, it would have gone. So this was the healing tool, and it's called Content Aware. It's a Content Aware tool. So what it does is it tries to adapt to the new spot. I'm gonna go ahead and put an eyeball in this part of, there's not much, but in this brown kind of yellowish ending place, I'm gonna sample again. And I'm gonna put it over here. And the skin turns that color, like it adapted to that color. Does that make sense? There's not many colors in here, but that gives you an idea. If I were to put this eyeball in his hair over here, and it's hard to tell, but the skin now turned a different color. So it all tries to adapt to the area that you're in. And although this was dark skin, because it's in shadows, it adapted to light skin. So that's the magic of the Content Aware tool. And sometimes you want that and sometimes you don't. First of all, let's just get it to work, okay? So click, shift, and then with enough space to fit the thing you want to fit, start drawing, but pay attention to what you're copying, to the plus sign on when what you're copying, because that's what matters, right? So now I put it over here, and he's got eyeballs all over the place. If that worked for you, you were able to copy, then give me a yay, like a green yay, not a yay. If something's not working and the tool isn't doing the copy, we're going to get the whole color thing a little bit better later, but if the tool isn't doing the copy, go ahead and let me know. Otherwise,
Hey, Diana,
yes, Gerard?
I let go of my key before I got a
Yeah.
good sample of the eye. How do
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
undo that?
You can only undo. And let me show you what he's talking about. Let me do this here. If I am copying, right, and I do half the eye, right, and I let go of my mouse, when I start again, it starts again from where I copied. So it always starts from the place you did your sample. If you let go of your mouse, it does that again and again and again. So if you did that, you have to basically.
But I took a bad sample. Let's call it.
Yeah,
that.
so they Command Z, undo that, take your sample again, and then start all over again, because
See,
you
my-
can't let go of your mouse.
My Command Z undid the new layer and still has the sample.
Oh, maybe you've been doing it on the original.
No, I did. Well, well, Here, I'll just open the boy's face over
Go
again.
ahead and share your screen. Oh,
I'm just gonna start from scratch.
okay. Yeah,
So first thing is you create a new layer.
first you create a new layer, and then you make sure that layer is selected, and you'd say
All layers.
copy from all layers. And then with your mouse on the empty layer, then you do the sample. Because yes, if this were not there and I did the sample over here, and then I am truly putting an eyeball on his actual chin. And even if this goes away, this is their big chin, cheek. I actually, messed up his pixel. So I'm gonna undo that. Okay, so you want it to be on the second layer. And when you, I'm gonna go ahead and click on the middle of his mouth now. And I'm gonna go ahead and give him another mouth here on his chin, which is kind of funky. And now, most interestingly enough, if this worked for you guys, and I know that there's a hand up, so hold on so people can keep practicing some fun stuff. I'm going to take you over to this image here, make a new layer. And now I am going to I'm going to make sure that I'm clicking on his mouth. Just take a mouth sample and watch. Oh. This always works, but it's a different color source, so it won't work. That's not good. Let me open another file, because what color size? This is in CMYK. Why is this one in CMYK? That's ridiculous. So let me open the falling star is in RGB. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do it the other way around, because this one you can't do that in, but I'm gonna grab this pure maple syrup. I'm going to sample this pure maple syrup. I'm going to go into the falling star. And I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to bring in here. Okay. So I'm putting the pure maple syrup poster over here. Notice that I didn't make a new layer. So is this destructive or non-destructive?
It's destructive.
It's destructive, right? But it brought in from the other image. So once you sample it, if I go over here and do the eyeball, it's not working because this is in a different color mode. So I would have to go in and change its color mode and stuff like that. I don't know what I do, which is why I opened another one. But the important thing is that you can copy in your own area. So I'm going to give him another nose over here, a sample over there, and I'm going to give him another nose and some new eyebrows. So I'm basically copying and kind of, the important thing is that it's adapting to the area and the color that you're in. And this is why I couldn't show it to you here best, but I'll show it to you. And I'm going to turn all these off. This is the normal guy again. And in case you really don't get the whole adaptive color content aware, I'm going to show you the clone tool here. Clone tool is this tool has been since the day Photoshop got invented, and it felt like magic at that point. And it's this little stamp here. The clone tool works exactly the same as the healing brush. Exactly the same. Hold down the option key and select, current layer, all layers. Select the mouth, for example. Now let me do the dark eye. I'm going to do the eye. And when I put the eyeball in here, see how it's giving me the exact same eyeball? Exact same. But now I'm dropping it in a light forehead and it looks, well, not that it never looked bizarre, but it looks even more bizarre. If I grab this mouth, Simple Clan, and then try to put the mouth in here, the color of the skin here is on the top a bit lighter, so it worked, but on the bottom it's giving me that darkness. So it doesn't adapt. The clone tool is not content aware. It gives you an perfect exact copy. Versus now you can see how that eyeball adapted, and if it was darker, it adapted and became lighter. That is because it's trying to fit its color into the new surrounding. Versus this one goes, I don't care. I'm just copying you exactly right. Okay. And sometimes you need an exact copy and sometimes you need something to merge. So that's the only difference between the clone tool and the content aware tool. The healing brush, it's called. Healing brush or healing tool, but it's content aware. It drops the shape, but it adapts to the color on the new thing. I'm seeing some of you guys posting already on the Padlet. Thank you. Keep doing that. Dan and Rebecca just posted. So anyway, that's the big difference between this one and that one. Okay. So if you save this to have a reminder of this, it will have to be saved as, okay. And I know it was already a layered file. So you can just save it and nothing happens. It was already a layered file. Cool. Mary Ellen, your hand was up a while ago and I said just a minute. Did you seem to have resolved it because your hand is down now? I can't hear you.
Yes, I got it to work.
Got it. And then Peggy?
Mine says could not use the clone stamp because the source and destination have
Yeah.
different color modes.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
happened to me too. When I tried to select the eyeball and I tried to put it in here, it
Yeah.
didn't let me because the other one is CMYK and this one's RGB. So that's why I opened this one and I went from the farm
Right.
to the star because both of those are RGB and I left the boy only onto its own. That's just
So how do you get rid of the whatever it's reading? 'Cause
yeah.
I think
So you
mine
just
is
say,
re-
it's telling you it can't do
Yeah,
it. Just
right.
say, okay, I got it. Thanks. Can't use it. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, but now it won't let this. Next time I try it, it won't let me do it.
it won't let you do it into this image. You have to open, you have to open another, or just on its own. Let's go back to the farm now.
Yeah.
And now let's use the healing brush in this one. And
Mhm.
let's put this little boy, I'm gonna have him peeking in now. Oh, I'm in the clone stamp. I was like, wait, that's weird. And you know why I knew I was in the Chrome stamp? Because it's bringing the background that's dark. And I'm like, oh, that's the clone. See, it brings me exactly the same. So instead, I'm going to go to the healing tool. And now when I bring the boy in, see how it's going to adapt to the fact that it's landing in a much lighter environment. In which case, whoops, the edge is not happy. In which case, it's not the best solution, but it's kind of, you know, lighter than it was over there. Now, since I brought so much extra stuff that I didn't want, I need to mask that and take the rest of him away. So if I were to do that, I would put in a mask, hold on a brush, and I would just take all the stuff that I didn't want to bring in. Right? And this was more like masking, so you don't need to do the second step. And I'm just doing it very, very abruptly. But basically, I'm doing like a hack job here. But you can basically have the guy kind of, I've got all that halo because I'm using a feather. So you got this guy in there, but he is lighter than he was in there. I'm going to undo that again. And so let's all create a healing brush tool if you haven't yet here, and maybe you would grab these, go back to the healing tool brush and grab these flowers, and maybe we can put a bunch of flowers like that over here. So I'm gonna bring it into this area. But the problem is that I brought in stuff that I don't want, which is those lines. So then I would have to mask and take that bit off. I'm gonna undo that. How about we bring this little kind of pinwheel or something, and I'm gonna add another one here. Does that make sense? Let me put little flowers on the, oh, this is the best example of color. Oh, this is so cool. Let me show you the color adapting. This is the best example of color adapting. It's so soft that it's not working well. Let me give it a harder brush. So let me select and sample this flower, which is against a very dark background. You see how the flower is against that dark background? And I'm going to put it here in the grass, and it adapted to the color. What color flower did it give me? A little greenish flower. You see that? And I'm going to put another one here, and it's giving me more of a brownish flower. And if I put another one here on the dark part of the trunk, it's giving me another color. It's merging the backgrounds. And if I put another one here and I go over it enough, it's merged into that one. Okay. So when you just do one click, it's kind of ghostly. You have to kind of click and hold it a little bit more and let it form itself a little bit more. There it adapted so much that in this case, it actually goes really dark. Let me see if I put it here on this pink, what it'll do. It's replacing the pink flower. All right, I'm gonna put a flower on this guy's orange t-shirt. And now the flower is a bit more orangey. All right, and this is where I had shown you that I sampled the maple syrup poster, and then I put another one on this side. Now you can see how that was done-ish. And if you bring too many of the lines that you don't want to, you can just turn the lines off. So here we go. And it keeps changing color because it keeps adapting to what's there. And since it's lighter over here, it gave me a lighter flare up there. So healing brushes for copying something, but having it merge and adapt that same brush, that same thing with a clone tool. I'm going to hit that same guy and I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to put it over here, and it's going to be darker than that one. In this case, it's similar coloring, so it doesn't matter. But had I tried to put with a healing brush, the poster in here, see how you can see the poster, but it's staying like it's inside, it's darker. Here I got into a lighter piece of the brush, but see how it's giving me a dark version of the poster in there. That's the healing brush's content aware. Okay. I'm looking up and I'm seeing a lot of hands. Let me see, hold on, who's for Dan?
So we had some settings on some of the other tools for like all layers and things like that. Is that
Mhm.
true for all of the ones we've been using? Then the clone and the healing brush
Yes.
that needs to
Um,
get set to all
Always
layers.
all
to-
layers, because otherwise it will do it on itself. And or say that I go to an empty layer and I don't say all layers, say I have it on normal. When you do a sample and you try to, sorry, I'm in the wrong tool. Okay, so then when I go and sample from here and I go draw, what's it drawing? Nothing, because basically, hold on, basically what it's saying is that, and I have to turn, let me just do this so it's easier. Let me take this one out of the group, so that I can sample this all at once. I'm gonna take it out. Close this for a second and put it in here. So if you basically have an empty layer and you tell it to only do current layer, and I do a sample of this boy and I try to put a boy in here, nothing's happening. Why? Because this is what I'm doing. I'm sampling that to that, which is nothing. It's sampling from this layer to this layer, and nothing's happening. That's why it's not a mistake. It just doesn't do anything because it's not sampling the layer that's below. But if I do all layers, then I can sample, so this has to be on. It only works to sample what it can see. So now I'm going to sample the bicycle, and I'm going to put another little bicycle over here. Good old bicycle. And I'll kind of, there we go. Kind of works. And over here, since I brought too much, see, I brought his like feet over and I brought some trunk over. So now I'm going to zoom in to this new bicycle. That is extra that I don't need. And that's why I've been saying, and this is the last time I'm going to show you the masking, then I'm going to let you kind of figure this out yourself. And I did it kind of quick, so it's not totally done. But then I'd add a mask right there, a layer mask. And I don't want all those things. So I go back to my brush tool and I start taking away what I don't want. So I'm going to go over here and tell it, do not bring this piece in. So I can see only the handlebars, right? And I'm masking out of the stuff that I brought in, all the stuff that I don't want. And I didn't want the new trunk. Okay. And I didn't finish the things, so I didn't bring in, as you can see, I hadn't brought in the thing when I finished the sample. But see how I can clean it up and have this bicycle, if I had finished it, because I didn't bring in the seats, over here again. All right. Just need to go over it a few more times so it doesn't look ghostly. I'm going to dump that one. And if I do that one again, I will actually get a bigger brush and bring everything in. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to get my healing tool. Click on that. And then I'm going to bring the whole bicycle. Oh, I need a bigger brush, I said. So I'm going to click on that one, bring in the entire bicycle with all of its stuff now. I'm going back and forth and really bringing in this bicycle. But I brought a lot more than I wanted in there. See, I brought all of this in, right? So now, just to show you what I mean when I say I mask, it's adapting to the color, which is why it's much lighter, but I wanted only the bicycle, right? So I'm going to add a mask. And remember what you do with a mask. You grab a brush, and in the brush, you take away what you don't want and you put in what you want. So with black, because this is white, I'm going to start drawing around what I didn't want to bring in.
Could you try and have the system pull out just the bike like
You-
we've done before, where you let it outline?
I would have, no, I would have had to do that with a different, do this same thing that I'm doing right now. There's another tool that would allow me to do that, which is the patch tool. But anyway, there's different ways of doing that. But here I need to go in and just get rid, and I'm doing it very abruptly, of all the stuff that I didn't want. You can't have it select a subject because there's no real subject here. See what I mean? So anyway, by the time I'm done with this, I could have a completely normal looking bike sitting. It's just 2 bikes in this family, and I can get rid of the extra grass because this one's sitting on mulch. Maybe that one's a bit too much. Actually, I'm going to leave a little bit of grass because there's not enough grass. It's like our grass patch began over there. And if I were to approach really carefully and do this with a little bit of time, you would never be able to tell that there aren't 2 bikes in there. Okay. When I mean a little bit of time, I would have to go ahead and do this mask really well. And let me undo this to answer Gerard's question. If I turn everything else off, right? Everything else off here. And in this page, with nothing else on, I say, select subject or remove background to just this. Here, let me make it on its own. Selecting this layer, and I do remove background. It's just too busy of a thing to figure it out, see? It can't really, this is an answer to, was it Gerard or Dan who said this? That it's just very hard to distinguish between the bicycle and its background. The remove background is good for very clear objects, but this is too complicated for it to know how to do that. So you're left with having to do the mask on your own and taking away as much as you can. And again, when I do it on this computer, I don't have a mouse and my pen, but when I do it with my pen, I can get so precise here that this is perfect. Like it looks absolutely perfect by the time you're done. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys finish a couple of these, do the best to bring this bicycle in as best as you can and post it. And I'm going to turn all these guys on again. And so now, ultimately, since I had removed that bicycle, once I turned all the other guys out, then it looks like the bicycle is here and not there. And I have 2 posters, and I never got around to fixing this here, but that's because I keep doing samples and doing and redoing and undoing. So every time I do that, I get little samples going on. All right. I want to show you something else. Guys, next week is our last class. And let me stop this share while you guys do what you can, do saves and posting stuff. Don't forget to save. And I'm going to share this screen where people are beginning to post all these tools. I see your hand is up, Mary. Give me a second. I'm refreshing. Okay, and I'm still seeing the eyeballs. Okay, so no one has started posting yet on the healing tool on the bike, but I'm seeing the healing tool working on other stuff. And there you go. You did it. You figured out. Remember, Nick, I said with the healing tool, you can fix this, and you did. You can now see how you go to a good line and you create the other good line. So great job in picking up what I had said about how I kept saying, you can fix that with the healing brush. And there you go. You did it. Okay, so perfect. I'm going to take you to, this is my fall schedule. And I'm going to send an email sometime this week. I always say sometime this week and I take forever to do it. But I'm teaching digital design, Illustrator, and Photoshop, two versions, two times of Photoshop classes in the fall. So if any of these work for you, I've got the Friday mornings class, and then I have a Monday, Wednesday afternoon class from 4:30 to 7:30. And the Friday morning is online like this one, but the Wednesday, Monday, the Monday, Wednesday class, you can choose to come in person or online, either way, because what I do is I teach the same class, but I'm standing in the classroom and it's online for people who stay home, and for people who come in person, I can help them in person. So some people like that better. So that is one class. It has 2 CRNs, but it's one class that you can attend. And it's the first one's from August 30th to October 4th. And the second one is October 14th to November 6th. Okay. So if anyone's interested in that, please register. As you can see, remember how Gerard did awesome. Not to say that you all have to do that, but he's taken this class a few times. Same with Peggy, her sample, like people who take the class again. First of all, I use different samples and different things each time, but also I practice the skill that you need to know, but a little bit differently each time, because I'm not going to mask the same thing again and again 25 times. So each time we'll mask something different. Each time we'll learn about a new tool, the remove tool I've never taught. I think I only taught it once because it didn't exist before, et cetera, et cetera. So this is Photoshop Friday mornings. And then this here, if you stay online, would be the CRN. Photoshop in the evenings. Is it 4:30 to 7:15 p.m. All right. And just so you know, these classes need 17 people each minimum before they let it run. And as you can see right now, this one only has 6 people and this one has 4 because these add up. So if you want to take these classes and don't want them to cancel, please sign up as soon as you can. What I mean that is because they're getting really, really, really serious about canceling classes that don't fill up. And they used to let us go until a few days before class. Now they're canceling way earlier because they're really worried that we're under budget. So if you think you can take this or Illustrator or digital design or any class, create compelling content. I teach you how to create content with apps that are free online versus Adobe stuff. Anyway, so as soon as you can, and if you know you can only attend, a few days, you're going to be traveling, you're going to have a class that you can never be there. Of course, don't, sign up. But if you think you can be there partly on and partly off, then please sign up so that we can make sure that we have classes, and then you can catch up with the recordings. All right. So Mary Ellen.
Yes. When I tried using both the clone stamp tool and the healing tool, it wasn't sampling the whole mouth when I tried to copy his mouth and paste it.
Okay, so do you want to share your screen so that I can see how to help? And I'm going to merge this conversation we've been having to the smart object conversation in a little bit. So we're going to move on. There's many other tools. Okay, so can you show me again what you're trying to do? First of all, wait. Go to your site, go to your layers. And I can already see that in the original boy, there's a mouth on his face. So you did it on his face. So turn off the eyeball to your second layer, no, to the top layer. That went on, yeah. And then this is what you did to your original. And so you're having troubles with whatever you're doing because you can't turn these off because they've already been drawn over. Does that make sense, you guys? That is destructive at its best because you made a new mouth on his cheek in the original face. So now there is no original face left to copy. Does that make sense? There's only mouth on his cheek. Does that make
Okay.
sense? I mean, Mary Ellen, does that make sense? I think you're looking like you're not sure what I'm saying. So I just want to be sure that you understand. And if not, I'll explain it a different way.
Yeah, but it was not sampling the whole mouth.
Okay. Right now, I don't really care how much it's not sampling. I want you to undo that. Can you take this thing off? Because you can't see all your tools. The time to update.
I can't get rid of it.
Then to get to your history tools, this is a beta because you have the you have the beta version. Okay, and they're basically saying that if you're gonna work with beta, you gotta keep updating it because the beta is they're testing stuff and they're fixing stuff all the time. So basically, since you installed the beta instead of the regular one, where you said you installed both and you're working with the beta, go ahead and update it so you can get rid of that thing. Otherwise, you're in trouble. So go ahead and grab from here and drag it out. Like put your mouse on that little thing and then just pull out so that we can have, yeah, pull it out. Perfect. And now click on that tiny little double header there. Finally, you can see your history. Okay, so now start going up, up, up until we see where you got this. So click on, for example, right there, the clone stamp, and let's see if that's when you, yeah, so already his cheek cleaned up, but you still have more. So keep going up. Good, and when I look over here, I see that his face is normal and that the stuff that you're seeing is only up there. So now you're ready to continue, okay? So
Okay.
go now, let's go ahead and if you turn this eyeball on and off, just to make sure his face should be complete. So turn that eyeball, yeah, you can grab this from here and move it out of the way a little bit, yeah, there we go. So there you go, see, you only have stuff over there, the face is complete. So now turn his face on again. Yeah, turn the eyeball off on the top one. We're going to create a new layer so that I can see what you're doing independently. Go down here and create a new layer. Yeah. Okay, so now show me what you're doing and I can look at what you're doing and see if I can help you.
Okay.
Sorry, my pencil's not deleting it, so hold on. Ah. There. Okay, so start are you on all layers? Yes, you are. Okay, so now sample, option click. The middle of his, okay, option click. Okay, now move up to his forehead. And you're carrying a little bit of mouth. Now click and drag and start drawing out the mouth. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what was happening. You might have had already overwritten the mouth on the original before, so that's why it was bringing stuff that wasn't the right thing because the original didn't have a mouth anymore or had a cheek. I don't remember. So that was working. Is there anything else you think wasn't working that you want to try here?
No.
Okay, so just basically make always sure what layer you're working on because select layer and make sure that you're on the layer where you want the new stuff, and let's always keep the original intact. And the way to know if it's been kept intact is to turn off the eyeballs on everything else and then really only see the original and look at it and go, oh yeah, I haven't messed up with it yet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Any other hands? Nope. Hopefully then you're posting in the Padlet. I'm still only seeing. Okay. All right. Let me share my screen then, and let's continue with the conversation about smart objects. All right. So in Photoshop, you have these three things open now. You don't need to have had this one. If you didn't, I'm just going to close it. It was for me to show you how you can copy into another image. It doesn't matter. What matters right now is that these two are ready and saved. Okay. And if you turn all these eyeballs off, the guy should be intact. And this is where we make our fixings. Now, in this case, I want to show you one more thing because where these mouths are doesn't matter ultimately. You can move them, but if you had done this with the spotting tool, for example, to get rid, and I'm gonna just do really quick to get rid of his spots, for example, right? And I'm just inventing this, just really quickly. Say I get rid of those things, and this is just the spot healing tool that I'm using. And I can do a much better job, but I'm doing this really, really quickly. Say that I did that, the ones that are the most egregious in tone. Okay. So if I do that, that's the before and after. See, I'm turning this one on. This one needs to stay connected, right? Because it's these tiny little dots is what I just created. And look what happens if I were to move. I'm going to do that with the move tool. What would happen if I were to move this out of the way? They're not connected to the spot anymore. Then I have a lot of little bits of pink skin in the wrong spot. Does that make sense? You need to keep them parallel. As I said, who cares if these move, because who cares? They're all wherever they are. But things like this, where you're really trying to hide something, they really can't move. Oh, they don't sync. So you might want to connect these two so that if you move one, the other one always moves with it. And so you can select, there's a couple different things you can do, but one of the things you can do is you can clip this layer to that one. See how now I've made it kind of part of it. And if I now were to move this bottom layer, oh, sorry, not clip, link. I always do this. You have to link them. Right click and link layers. Thank you. So that now when I move one, the other one moves with it. Okay, no matter which one I move, they act like one. They're not flattened, so we're not destructive, but they act like one. Okay, so you had to link them. So again, how did I link them? I select one, select the other, select both like we did for the group. Then right click and link layers. And then these links appear, and now they will not have that issue. So now this is going to be the pimples. Okay, so try that. Just do a couple of really, we can do a better job, but grab the spot tool, take away a few of his pimples, and then connect those layers so that we don't lose, and I actually taking moles away, which normally we wouldn't take a mole away, but anyway. And now those, no matter what we do, will never become disconnected. Okay? Well, never until you unlink. And it's not hard to unlink. If you were to just click on this link, double click on, no, sorry. Actually, I thought if you could double click, you would undo it. Nope. You actually, I think it's option unlink or command unlink. There we go. If you hold down the command and click on the link, they unlink. Okay. So you don't want to do that. You want to keep them linked. And then that's good. All right. Let's save all of this. And if someone wants to do a screenshot of their linked layers, that's good. I myself have been not doing too many screenshots today because I keep moving on teaching you new stuff, but please, you guys don't forget. And then I want to go to Bridge, and I was to open that file that we were working on last week where we had, and where did I save it? I think I put it in Photoshop Summer Class Files, where we had the smart objects. Does everyone have it? I'm trying to remember where I might have left it. I'll open this one. Does everyone have this one? If you don't, if you find it, great. And if you don't, we can recreate it really quickly. But here we had made 2 smart objects. Give me a yes if you have it. And if not, we'll just recreate something. It's not hard to recreate.
Was that the postcard one?
Falling Star postcard. I think I'd called mine smart object. But I mean, we each called it whatever, but it was the postcard, yeah. And I was just basically, we brought in 2 files and we made them both into smart objects. If you don't have it, I'm seeing a lot of people who are saying no. So let's just do this. Let's go to Bridge because it's so easy to recreate. Let's go to Bridge and let's open, I need only JPEGs to make it easier right now. Let's go ahead and open. Again, I'm going to do 2 things that are completely unrelated. So let's go to the what JPEGs do I have? This guy, the white shirt, the very, very bottom. Let me double click on this guy to open it up. Okay. And let's go back to Bridge and open one of these flowers. Although white on white is going to be hard, but anyway, let's open one of these flowers. And then what we need to do is we need to bring this flower, and it's going to be bigger than the other one. So maybe this time we can say remove background. So we just bring the flower in. Okay.